Hey, let's start the show.
It's February 2nd, 2012. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. Groundhog Day. I'm Will Smith. Welcome to This Is Only a Test. How are you doing, Norm?
It's the official podcast of Tested.com.
It is the official podcast. You know, it's the first time I've messed it up in, what, like 3-4 months, probably?
I'm also giving you some feedback. You don't need to rush it when you do the introduction. I know we want to get into the podcast really
I'm excited and ready to go.
But for new listeners, you want to give them a warm welcome intro.
Should I give them a brief introduction about what the site is about?
You don't need to
we
do
like
that.
Luxuriate
coffee
in
and
the intro a little
technology,
more.
Lego.
Yeah.
Take a
Long
cue-
walks in the
take a
rain,
cue
pina coladas.
From Terry Gross.
I do not want to take any cues from Terry Gross, even though she's a massive professional success. But she says fresh.
I
the wrong
understand
way.
that, but there's a way that she says it every time.
Fresh.
That's
So
it's very welcoming.
So you're saying what I need is a signature delivery.
That's not a rush delivery.
Okay. I think my signature delivery was
I don't know
the
if
rush delivery.
NPR would ever really be considered the tonal unless you're talking about car talk.
I don't like
That-
those guys.
That's the one I don't like. That's the one show on NPR. I don't like.
Oh, come on. That's the most entertaining show on NPR.
It is entertaining, but those guys are lunatics.
But that's what makes it fun, because they're not the soft, whispery, Terry Gross type NPR people.
You know what? If they used real names instead of click and clack, I could
Tappet
be
Brothers.
down with it. Yeah, but I like.
Ho, ho,
just-
ho.
yeah.
I'm going to go talk about how Boston.
Sometimes it does feel like they're trying a bit too hard to constantly be cracking themselves up all the
Yeah.
time.
It's almost vaudevillian.
But it is a
sometimes.
great. I think it's a great aspirational point for like a good combination of information and entertainment. Like they actually mix that stuff.
Oh,
You learn
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
about cars,
It's very,
but it's
very
also
informative.
entertaining. Yeah.
It's only.
I mean, those guys really know what when it
Yes.
comes to cars. They know their shit.
Yeah.
Oh, they're
it's good.
psychics. I mean, someone could say, you know, I heard this click and clack and like this type of gear noise, and they'll know exactly what the problem is.
Well, the thing is, they're good diagnosticians, right? So you say, well, what does the sound sound like? And then part of that show is funny because they make the people make the sound, right?
Right.
You know, and then they go, oh, okay, that sounds like it's a trend. But you never know if they're actually right.
Well, no, because
they hang up on the call.
Well, sometimes you
and
do because they have callers who come back and tell them
Yes.
if they were right once they took it to a mechanic.
I'm not in the car that much on Saturday morning.
And I like
turns
the
out.
puzzler. You must enjoy the puzzler.
I do like the puzzler.
what's the
I-
puzzler?
It's you know they give you a riddle or a puzzle
Oh,
every
okay,
week
okay.
to solve,
The segment
and some
of
of
that
them
show, yeah.
are pretty interesting.
Yes.
If we were going to rip something off from Car Talk, I would rip off the puzzler.
Yeah.
So what's going on this week? Should we jump
Ooh,
right into
man.
the news?
Let's rip off the best of every NPR show that we like. The best
Ooh.
part.
Ooh. So
So it'd be like the puzzler
yeah.
from Car Talk.
Which one of you is going to be Guy Noir?
I don't know
See,
what
got
Guy
you rip
Noir
off
is.
Guy Noir from Prairie Home Companion.
Oh, God.
That's the best. The Guy Noir. Yes.
I can probably sing the Powder Milk Biscuit song.
Well, okay. Maybe we don't need two things from Prairie Home Companion.
But that would be my favorite
Yeah.
thing.
I'm gonna stop this, and we're just
And
gonna
then-
restart
and
the
then we'll
show
also-
because it's Groundhog Day.
We'll also split the show up into three
this is
acts.
terrible.
Actually, maybe
Act one.
I would like to start the podcast every week with Will rendition of Tishmingo Blues. That would be a good way to. That would
As
be a
someone
good way
who
to
does
start.
not like, is on the record as not liking Prairie Home Companion and actually not listening to it, I have no idea what anyone.
What do you like on NPR?
I like Forum. I like Forum up until the point where they start calling in, where local people start calling in,
Right.
and then I hate Forum.
And you like This American Life?
I like This American Life. I like Market Watch. I like Guy Risdall.
Really?
Yeah,
Let's do the numbers.
I think that he is.
Oh God, that is the worst.
It's so super cheesy radio voice guy, but it makes that kind of stuff entertaining.
I like On
that.
the Media because that's
I don't
relevant
listen to
to,
that.
my interests. And
Radio Lab?
I do
I
love.
love Radio Lab.
I do love a Prairie Home Companion and Car Talk. I know you guys don't like them.
I like
I like
This
the
American
game
Life
shows too.
I don't love the
Says
I don't love
you-
the game shows.
on Car Talk.
No,
they do
like
game shows
wait,
on
wait,
the
don't
weekend.
tell me.
Wait,
and
don't
then
No
tell
tell
thanks.
me.
I'm good. I don't need that in my life.
It's like topical.
Wait,
They have
wait,
news shows and
wait,
they have a
wait.
language show.
Wait,
Okay.
wait.
I don't like Talk of
Wait.
the Nation.
No, Talking to the Nation's bad.
Sometimes when I listen to NPR, I do find I'm a very liberal person, but I do find myself listening to NPR. Sometimes going, oh, this is why some people hate liberals.
Right. Well, the thing is,
they think they're so superior.
Yeah. That's why I don't like Forum. The second half of Forum, when they start taking questions, goes completely off the rails.
No, it's because it's local stuff, and sometimes
it's because it's always some fucking lunatic from Berkeley that makes the Bay Area look like a bunch.
Oh God, no! If you
granola Birkenstock
if you ever want to really kind of like delve into the world of like crank America, listen to any call-in on C-SPAN.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Call-ins?
Oh, they have call. I don't know why they still do them, because it's a freak show every single time.
I used to call into C-SPAN all the time, dude.
Did you really?
No, I'm just
this
kidding.
might explain it.
The other thing I love on radio is I love Art Bell. I love the old Art Bell shows. I
the
don't think he
UFO
does
guy?
that anymore, does he? The Coast to Coast?
He doesn't, but you know who is terrific, although you have to have a subscription because it's on Sirius, is this guy Riley Martin.
Okay.
Who's one of the characters that Howard Stern has on his channels.
Oh, okay.
And this is a guy who believes that he was abducted
He's been
by
probed?
aliens.
So he's Randy Quaid from Independence Day.
And they're coming back, and that only he speaks their language, and he understands their various symbols, and knows all about these different alien races. And he does it completely straight.
Now,
but all the callers are basically Howard Stern people just calling to wind him up.
So does it? Like, do you think it's performance art, or do you think he really believes it?
That's a question for the ages.
Okay.
But he has this very deep voice.
Hello.
I mean,
Kylie.
deeper even than that. And I'll send you a couple of links. You should listen to him sometime. He's very entertaining.
That sounds like it'd be right up my alley.
Yeah.
I like crazy.
So
people.
I'm going to loosely tie this into technology. A lot of the shows I like on NPR are available in the form of podcasts, and I subscribe to them on iTunes.
Explain why you do this, Norm.
Why subscribe to
them in podcasts rather than
because
listen to them on the radio.
You can listen to them at your convenience.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I don't have to listen to the pledge drive stuff.
Yeah.
Which is going on right now.
Oh, is there a pledge drive right now?
Yeah. I donate my $50 every year, and I'm totally happy with that. But they also lie to you. So I'll first a light rant. The pledge drive, I'm okay with like the 8 minutes of pledge stuff at the top of every hour. But they lie to you about the rewards. They say if you commit to $12 a month, you get their KQED umbrella.
Do you not?
But you do get that stuff, and you also get like this cool prize. Oh, here's a This American Life USB key with like 13 hours of interviews. Sounds great, and they'll say it's the only exclusive available if you donate
right now
$144 a year.
That's a lot.
It's a lie. It's a lie. You
You
can
don't
buy it for
get
like $30
on eBay.
online. It's online.
Well, that's not that bad.
Oh.
And so I don't think it's worth $144.
I was going to say, is that Eaton's survival radio? Does it not have a hand crank and solar panels?
No, that's something I don't want.
I give money to public broadcasting because I do think it's important, and the government increasingly seems to not be interested in supporting it.
The damn conservatives.
But my
even though it's a constitutional thing,
is that while some shows are on
really
well, I know this because I just went on a historical adventure. That in the U.S. Constitution it says that the government will provide money for the useful arts.
Well, there's a room for interpretation there.
Well, yeah, that of course is why we have to have a Supreme Court, because they left it wide open for us to argue about. But if I like to think that
I was going to say
it is a fine line when you look at some of the endowments that the government gives out between opera and like arts and like teaching children about literature and stuff, and then like some artists who's just like smearing feces on a wall. I guess technically one is as valid as the other, but then that's where all the interpretation comes in.
Yeah.
The thing is, some of these shows are not available in podcast form.
That's right.
But you can listen.
There's still no great Prairie Home Companion podcast. I wish there were.
There isn't, and you have to pay for a lot of that stuff. And
if you love it so much, you should pay for it.
Well, you should. But if I don't want to sit in my car, a certain time of the week on Sunday,
that's
and listen
the problem.
To it.
Yeah, that seems so antiquated now.
It is.
Don't you have a stereo in your house? You could just put it on the old FM radio.
It's about the convenience.
I know, but again, we're so conditioned out of the idea of having to watch a TV program when it's on. That radio seems backwards now because of that.
Your mistake here is thinking that Garrison Keillor doesn't feel like people should gather around the family radio and listen to Prairie Home Companion. It's a throwback to the way things used to be.
Regardless,
that's not about
content.
Listening to it in convenience. That's about listening to it when they put it on the fucking radio.
I know, but so we should have at least give us the choice.
Like City Arts and Lectures. I love that show.
Yeah,
it's not available. You can't even buy it,
and it's on at random times.
It's on late at night. It's a San Francisco thing.
Is that the one with Linda Hunt?
It is.
Okay.
I love Linda. She was on The Practice. She played the old judge of the big
really?
sausage.
Yeah, and she was the principal in Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
She looks like
She inhabits all ends of the cultural spectrum.
So her second act has been to class up the joint.
Yes.
But in The Incredibles, the lady who designs the
very much looks like her.
She looks like her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Edna
Mode.
Edna Mode. Yeah. That's it.
But it's a great interview series. It's done at the Herbst Theater. I love listening to that stuff. So I know KQED, like our local radio station, you can listen to it online, like you can a lot of radio stations. And we actually did an Apple Day we shot recently where it's a radio app that you can listen to digital
HD
streams.
Radio. I don't think it's up yet.
It's not up yet.
Yeah.
I want a desktop app that does that, but also lets me like DVR my radio.
Griffin used to sell a thing that was a radio tuner that was basically TiVo for your radio when you plugged it into your PC or Mac.
Well, I don't need to, the digital streams are there. I just want to be able to tap in to the stream, get some type of TV guide / programming, and then say DVR from this hour to this hour every week. And save it as an MP3 file, and then put it on my my iPod.
That's some Matrix shit right there.
Well, I'm sure it's available.
Stream.
I'm sure the technology is available. It's completely legal. It's just like recording something on VHS from the TV or DVRing anything. I just want people to actually do that. Anyway, there's some news for this week. Technology
There
news.
is technology news. First big thing, Facebook IPO. Everybody's talking about it. You don't need to hear us talk about this. Facebook is worth basically $1 billion, according to the IPO filing, is what they're hoping for.
So the interesting thing about the Facebook IPO, which everyone was waiting for, the filing with the SEC, was less
really
about how much money
stuff.
they were looking to raise and how much they're worth, but more about what they had to disclose to file this IPO in terms of how much Zuckerberg makes, who their principal investors are,
what the challenges they expect to face are.
And the big editorial piece was, I guess, Zuckerberg's mission statement for Facebook. And that has been scrutinized and annotated to death on the internet.
Yeah.
And I think it's a fine piece of marketing language,
Why is Facebook even going public at this point? What's the reason to do it?
He's raising a lot of money to actually pay off taxes from selling certain shares.
So he needs cash.
Yeah, they need cash because right now
needs cash.
Yeah, they need good cash flow.
So he's held on to like 27% of the shares, and he also has voting rights for a significant portion of the other shares, right? Like he votes for other people.
I just think when a company, I think it can be a bit of a culture shock, and I think it will be for Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg is obviously an extremely bright guy.
Yeah.
But I think, he's had the luxury up until now of running Facebook pretty much like his own private fiefdom, because it is. He basically owns the majority of it. He's the founder of it. He's the most powerful person.
Well, he's the largest single shareholder. He doesn't own the majority.
Right. He's the largest single.
He has over 50% voting share, though.
So he is the controlling interest.
Yeah.
And I thought it was very interesting, that quote that really stuck out at the very beginning of that letter was that we don't build cool things in order to make money. We make money in order to build cool things.
Yeah.
When he is answerable to shareholders, that's going to be a real culture shock because those people only care about making money.
I mean, we've all worked for public companies before, and I think that actually the working for shareholders thing is a lot of what's wrong with a lot of what's like driven companies in the wrong way.
Well, absolutely, and there's a lot of obviously, for example, there's been a lot of conversation in the public discourse lately about China, right? And like, why doesn't Apple, for example, do all its manufacturing in the US? And Steve Jobs is evil because he never did that. And you can have a million different opinions about that. But the reality is the reason why is because Apple's shareholders would never allow it to happen. Because they would make less money. And once a company becomes publicly owned and is accountable to shareholders, corporate responsibility goes out the window. All other concerns other than making money and keeping your shareholders happy go out the window. And that's why I think and that's why there's this whole conversation in America right now about how big businesses are bad, because big businesses, once they become that certain size and once they become publicly accountable, only care about making money no matter what the cost.
Well, it's not just about making money; it's about making the most money possible. So in the 60s and 70s, there were big. Standard Oil was a massive corporation, even on today's scale. But there was kind of corporate accountability, and that seems to have gone away. Did you read the thing in the New York Times about the Obama the Silicon Valley dinner that Obama had here in, I guess, like last March or April, with Zuckerberg,
and Jobs and all those guys,
and the end of the conversation was, hey, why aren't we building iPhones in America? And Jobs said we don't have a workforce that can do that. and then told the story about changing the glass on the iPhone and waking up people from the dormitory in China at midnight to go through and start building iPhones with this new process. That's never going to happen here,
Right.
because American workers won't do it, and we can't. We've built
and also we can't afford to pay them, because the
Yeah.
whole reason why an iPhone, though expensive, is as cheap as it is that it's based on the economics of what is essentially slave labor. If you bring those jobs here and pay people a living wage, an iPhone's going to be $1,500.
Right. And the robots aren't ready yet, is the other side of it. You can't use robots for a lot of that stuff, because the cost of changing the line becomes really prohibitive. So that you use robots for things that change infrequently, like cars, and not so, and placing chips on boards and commonly repeated tasks. But something like, the aluminum acid baths or whatever it is that they do, it requires more manual intervention, is my understanding.
Yeah.
The interesting thing to me is what's going to happen when people in China decide they don't want these jobs anymore either. And
Are you kidding me?
What?
The lines, I mean, every time Foxconn hosts, job openings, the line is miles long.
Yeah, but I mean, that'll change over 20 years. I'm not talking about next year. I'm talking about 10, 15, 20 years from now.
I don't think that people will stop wanting jobs. I think the jobs will change.
I mean, do you guys feel this is completely off the Facebook IPO topic, but I mean, the Apple working conditions are in the news right now. I mean, all three of us buy a lot of Apple stuff. I mean, do you feel bad as a result of that?
I feel as bad about it as I do buying almost any other product, because almost everything is made under the same conditions. Apple gets singled out because it has a very high profile, and there's been a number of stories about it, and because it's easy to make the guilt contrast association, like, oh, you have this super high end luxury shiny product, but this is what it takes to make it.
Yeah.
But again, go to Target or Walmart or buy almost anything from any company. It will have been made in China or Taiwan or one of these places.
Yes, exactly what Gary says, but also I think a lot of us are being a little more cognizant about buying things that are made in the U.S.
Yeah, I buy New Balance sneakers now, and I always look for things that are made in America wherever possible.
And that's a lot of what you can do. I mean, you can't say I'm just going to stop buying products that are made overseas, but you can buy more products, or when given a choice between two equal products things that you care about.
Yes.
The stuff made in the U.S. actually is pretty good.
Yes.
And it's not to say the stuff in the U.S. made in the U.S. the conditions are like much better,
right?
Because even like stuff that's made in San Francisco or in L.A., a lot of those conditions are.
Well, you're thinking about
great.
American Apparel.
Well, no, yeah, that, and I mean it's still like it's not like your mom and dad making stuff, like owning their own small business.
Right.
It's still big
my
companies.
parents don't run a sweatshop.
Right. It's still big companies.
But what it's really going to take though is some kind of really kind of fundamental from the ground up change in the way corporations can function, so that they can actually afford to make these jobs American jobs.
Well,
like Santorum, as much as I find most of everything he says despicable, made a fairly decent point about how you have to give these companies super aggressive incentives to bring those jobs back, because it's so expensive compared to what it costs to just have Chinese people do it.
Well,
that there's got to be some kind of tax offset.
So the difference.
At least we can build Lego better.
But on the face of it, yeah, it seems absurd that we've got
our nimble fingers can build Lego better.
We're good at that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think children probably have a better shot at that because they have smaller fingers.
Chinese children building my Lego.
On the face of it, it does seem kind
terrible,
of absurd and sad that we've got millions of people in America sitting around with nothing to do
Unemployed,
while all these phones are being made overseas.
So the thing that gives me pause, and I talked to Gordon about this at fair length last night, is where HP and other companies are saying, look, here's our corporate responsibility stuff. Basically, the process with Apple when they find a new subcontractor, according to this New York Times article, of course, is that they get into every level of the manufacturing process, and they say, okay, how many people are you going to have to hire? What's the capital expense on the line? What's the expense for your materials? And then they say, okay, here's the margin. Once they know all that stuff, they say, here's what we're willing to pay you, and the margin on that is minuscule above what their expenses are, right? So then the next year they come back and say, okay, we want it to be 10% cheaper. And the year after that, and that's always changing, and that's how they get into looking at optimizing the process for finishing the aluminum that they use to make MacBook Airs, and going from safe, non-explosive chemicals to shit that's going to blow up. And the implication in the New York Times story, I don't know if this is true or not, but I assume that this is at least multiple sources in the New York Times, is that other companies like HP and Dell don't necessarily get into that level of detail and put that much of a squeeze on the third-party suppliers. So, I mean, it's definitely something. But, I mean, your point earlier that this is Apple under scrutiny because they had the biggest quarter of all time, and their head is standing taller above everyone else's in the industry is also probably relevant.
But again, it all comes down to the fact that it's run by shareholders, and if Jobs, when he was still around, or if Tim Cook today went to his shareholders, went to his board, and said, "Hey, I've got an idea. Why don't we make just a little bit less money?
Yeah.
And pay these Chinese people more, or have some iPhones manufactured in the US, and we'll still be super rich,
or not use the chemical that explodes.
But maybe we just make 85 billion instead of 95 billion next year. He would be fired. There would be an absolute revolt because these companies are driven by, like you said, it's all about how much can we make.
It's more more blood from the turnip is necessary.
But I wonder if it would even be practical to see almost some kind of pilot scheme where they would open like one factory in America and maybe 5% of all iPhones are made in the United States, and those are, like they have like product red. It's like here's the made in the USA version. It's $150 more, but if you want to support American manufacturing, buy that version and see what would happen.
Well, it seems like the thing that we make in America now is software and entertainment.
Yeah, which then gets ripped off by everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Facebook IPO's out. I don't know. Did they announce when it's actually going to happen?
As soon as SEC.
There's a fairly extended period of time that has to wait, and there's a cool down phase and all that stuff, right?
I think it's going to be a bad thing for Facebook ultimately. I think a lot of people are going to get very rich. The people who work at Facebook.
Yes, the janitors.
Zuckerberg
really
and Moskovitz and all these guys are going to become even richer.
Yeah.
But if you're one of those people that likes to complain about Facebook being evil now, wait until it's a public company accountable to shareholders who only care about making money.
But the thing is, unlike a company like Google, I have no problem dropping Facebook completely and not using it, as opposed to like I can't not use Google.
Facebook is something you can walk away from. And in fairness, Google had a similar situation and has managed to avoid a lot of these pitfalls. I mean, it also makes it easy. It's easy because they're making a boatload of money as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think this is one of those things where you have an okay time until the hard times hit.
Yeah.
And then the first time you have 11 bad quarters in a row, you have real problems.
Well, they only need to have one. You know what the market's like. You only have to come in slightly under projection, and the market will savage you. Everyone will be selling off. I saw a couple of interesting analysts saying that they think that this whole Facebook, that the valuation is way over the top. And it's inflated by the fact that Facebook is in the zeitgeist and everyone's on Facebook, so they all think it's the big thing, which to some extent, obviously, it is. But the romanticism of it is driving up and inflating the actual value of it.
Well, it's the same thing that happened with a lot of the Linux IPOs in the late 90s. You know, people were thinking, oh, hey, it's somebody in Microsoft's market. They have a chance to take them on. Let's put money at Red Hat or whatever. And then that money went straight down the toilet. Basically.
There was a guy on NBC this morning talking about it who made a good point. It's part of the reason why Facebook is in great shape and is unlikely to go the way of Friendster or MySpace anytime soon, is that they are now so deeply embedded in other parts of the web. Like other companies rely on Facebook for so much of their strategy. Like us on, you've got Morgan Freeman on the Super Bowl saying, like us on Facebook. Like it's just embedded in so many people's other businesses now.
15 years ago, everybody was saying, hey, visit us at AOL keyword Ford. And
has
that helped
AOL?
Remember
when AOL keywords were a thing?
I mean,
holy shit.
Facebook, visit us at facebook.com/Ford is the same exact thing as AOL.
That could easily be replaced by the next
thing. You
thing.
get glues, no problem.
Yeah.
It's not even that. It's that the domain, the URL is the thing of value. Now, the counter to this is that when you look at graphs of time spent on the internet versus graphs of time spent on Facebook over the last 3 years.
Don't say those two words together.
What? I'm not going to say the social graph word.
Okay.
Oh, wait, hold on. But no, when you look at the amount of time people spend on Facebook versus every other site that they go to on the internet, Facebook wins.
Were you surprised by because the other thing that came out of this whole process was Facebook having to be much more obviously very transparent and federal filings and stuff about here's how many people use the service, here's how many hours they're on the site, territory by territory. It was interesting to see those breakdowns.
I didn't actually dig that deep into the breakdowns. We were doing Lego. We were doing serious business yesterday afternoon, so I haven't had a chance to read.
Well, it was interesting. It was interesting to see. It was, I think they've got something like 850 million users, 400 of which are on the site 400 million of which are on the site every day.
That's astounding.
On average for an hour a day. Although again, for example, like in Israel, the per hours per day is much higher than any other place. Like obviously, we've seen how in those parts of the world, Facebook is kind of gaining greater adoption.
Well, it's the internet. As in Japan, people use phones the way we use PCs.
Right.
The same thing is happening there, but with Facebook is my understanding.
Well, but also in places where traditional methods of communication are a bit more stifled. So
Yeah.
you go to like the Arab world,
Yeah.
for example, and television is not necessarily, and public broadcast is not as free as it is in the Western world, and so things like Facebook become more of an outlet.
Wow.
The thing I really liked about that Facebook IPO filing was that they listed, we have 850 million users, and we are not sure how many of the remaining people on the planet are interested in signing up for our service.
Well,
Like that-
he had,
like that-
it was a lot
Well, yeah,
of
so
like,
they could already be at peak oil.
There are 7 billion people, and we
Yes.
think we've gotten all of them that are interested, is a concern. That's amazing.
Yeah, you got to worry about growth. But it's not about like how many more people can you add. It's about how do you monetize
how
the
much
people
more
that
money
you
can
have.
you pull those.
Each
from those
person
people.
is a turnip, and
And I'm telling you, that's going to be done with more aggressive marketing, more looser and looser privacy policies, where more of your information can be made available. It's just like it's so inevitable what's going to happen. It's like, well, we can't add any more people. Like you said, we've reached a kind of a peak oil point. And so it's how do we get more blood? How do we extract more out of each user that we have? And that's going to be mining their personal data more, getting more in your face with fucking pop-up ads and bullshit on Facebook. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the interesting thing about all that stuff is how much the people like. You can only do that for so long before the people revolt. Once you get out of growing the market and get into squeezing blood from the existing market you have, then that business is going to go into decline.
And that creates an opportunity for the next thing, be it Google Plus or Path or whatever, to come along and say, hey, we're not evil. So yeah, Facebook turned into this ugly thing, and now you should come over here instead.
Exactly. On much smaller news, Steve Jobs and Neil Young. By the way, the R story that this came from had the scariest photo of Neil Young I've ever seen.
I don't think you can take a non-scary photo of Neil Young these
Pretty
days.
scary dude.
No, Neil Young, he's like kind of grandfatherly most of the time.
No,
you
he
look
looks
at
really
him,
grumpy.
but like at bridge school, he's always happy and kind of he's kind of a frowny faced dude. But yeah, so Neil Young and Steve Jobs wanted to bring 24-bit audio to the masses. Now, first off, let's talk about what this means. Do you remember Super Audio CD and DVD audio?
Yeah.
So this is kind of at forefront of the mind for me because we were at CES and got to listen to a pair of crazy expensive headphones with Super Audio CD support, a source hooked up to them. And suddenly I understood why people cared about Super Audio CD, because when you take a pair of $1,500 headphones and a 24-bit high sample rate source, it sounds unbelievable, right? Neil Young, they were specifically concerned about the impact that the MP3ization of music, the convenience over quality, and the fact that we're listening to lower quality music now than we were 20 years ago with CDs, and they wanted to introduce a 24-bit less compressed or uncompressed standard for iTunes. Should we talk about what that means?
If you want to get into the technical parts of it, yeah.
This is a boring word picture, but so basically when you record a WAV audio file, you record a sample rate, which is the number of chunks per second that you break up the audio, the analog wave into, right? Mm-hmm. So usually you record 44 kilohertz or something like that. So it means each second of wave audio is 44,000 chunks, and each one of those chunks is 16 bits of data, right?
Yes.
So to figure out how much data a second chunk is, you take 44, the sample rate, multiply it by the number of bits, then convert it to megabytes.
So there are two axes of which you can increase quality of audio.
Yeah, you can
increase the sample.
Yeah, exactly.
And increase the quality of each sample.
Exactly, or increase the number of samples.
Quantity of samples and quality of samples.
Yeah, exactly.
24-bit is the quality of samples.
Right. And that's going to increase the size much less than, say, increasing the number of samples. Because when you, for reasons that we're not going to get into, you have to increase the samples in multiples of 22 kilohertz, basically. So the next jump up from 44 is like 96 something. And anyway, that's going to really multiply the size of your files. That's going to give you two times the size of the files, whereas 16 to 24 bits is going to multiply them by 50. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Didn't happen. This like they were making progress and then it stalled. It's not the first time people have talked about going to 24-bit for audio.
Not the first time Apple has talked about it.
Right. Current samples. Currently, what happens when you listen to an MP3 is it's a 16-bit, 44 kilohertz sample rate wave file that's then compressed to MP3 or AAC in iTunes' case. And those bit rates on iTunes AAC files are what, like 192 kilobits?
Yeah. VBR sometimes.
Yeah, VBR for the iTunes Plus stuff, which I think is dead on the vine as well.
Yeah, you do have the option, at least if you're burning a CD, of getting a lossless, like completely uncompressed version off of it.
Yeah,
but a CD, like a gold CD from the studio, not like burning MP3s on a CD.
Right.
Yeah. So 24-bit audio, it's not happening because people aren't pushing for that standard. Also, it's going to be incompatible with existing hardware.
Right. So your iPhone is not capable of playing 24-bit audio. The other reason it's not happening is that most people listen with pack-in headphones, and you're very unlikely to hear a difference between 16-bit and 24-bit audio using a pair of $10 pack-in earphones.
And also they are much larger files.
Huge.
Yes. So you can get fewer songs on your
about
device.
100 megs a file, pretty much.
Instead of 10 meg, it's a tenfold size
So for
increase,
super
basically.
audiophiles who probably got the largest iPod, or listen to their music on a computer or whatever, and again the space is an issue. That's what you want.
But if you're forward thinking, the file size for a song isn't going to matter 2 years ahead in terms of how much storage we'll have and how much bandwidth we'll have to stream stuff. It really is not having the right hardware to play it off of and the right hardware to listen to. And you and Vinny were talking earlier about
extended conversation
about how these days people seem to care less about the headphones they buy, especially and also the listening experience is has transferred from home to on the go, where people aren't sitting on their couches wearing really nice headphones.
When I was 22,
I'm just saying the vast majority of people, even if it's not at the file level, the sound that is going into your ears, in 99% of cases, is being throttled somewhere along the line. But if not by the file, then by the quality of the hardware you're using.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing to mention is that there are 24-bit audio standards now. SACD and DVD audio. I'm not sure about DVD audio because it's kind of super dead on the vine instead of just mostly dead on the vine. But both of those are 24. I know SACD is 24-bit. I think DVD is as well.
Hasn't Apple done some releases in lossless format? For when it's like the Beatles or some like really high-profile release, you can buy a lossless version.
Maybe Norm can check, but I don't think we have. I don't think that's the case.
They did a 24-bit push a while ago. Remember when they had that event where there was like a Apple logo in the guitar, right?
Right.
Where music was focused. They pushed that, but it wasn't any hardware change, so you really get no benefit. The thing is, the difference between 16-bit audio and 24-bit audio is not as dramatic as like looking at a VHS to Blu-ray or a DVD to Blu-ray,
VHS to DVD even.
Exactly. So,
especially if you're listening with cheap.
Well, that's the thing. You really got to be listening on that crazy setup that you had to really appreciate.
Right. Well, I don't think that's the case. I think you have to be
the parallel, right? For home
we should
video.
Test that actually.
Right. Not only do you need new Blu-ray discs, you need a Blu-ray player, you need nice cables, and you need a big TV. The parallels are there for audio also. You need a player, you need the headphones, you need good cables, and you need the media. It's a much bigger investment when you're just talking about audio for most people than for video. It's something that you can more regularly consume.
The TV seems like it's an easy thing to spend $2,000 on. A pair of headphones seems like it would be a harder sell when you're talking to significant others.
Yeah, I think the hardware's already out there. It's just really expensive.
The other thing I was going to say is that the 24-bit audio formats that are out there now are DRM'd to the point that like nobody's cared enough to break the DRM. I don't know how you crack a SACD or a GBDA file to get a pure digital rip off of it. I think that those are DRM to the point that nobody's bothered to make that an easy rip experience. And without that kind of convenience, like nobody's going to put an SACD player in their car. So anyway, that's that. I thought it was an interesting story.
It's pointless in the car because you have too much ambient noise anyway.
Well, but I don't want to buy I don't want to buy the same format twice. Like, I don't want to buy Dark Side of the Moon in 3 different formats. I don't want to buy an MP3, an SACD.
No, if you've got like a good luxury car with a really sweet aftermarket sound system, I imagine you could get a great.
I think Norm's right. I think you're going to lose the detail.
Yeah. Just by driving, just by turning on the car.
I listen to most of my music in the car.
That's where I listen to.
That's where good enough.
But I'm not a super audiophile,
right.
so.
That's why but good. That is the good enough situation.
Yeah.
Right. You'd rather have your entire library in your hand than have the best possible quality.
But again, there's always ways to improve it. Like I said, since I switched to that dock cable that you recommended,
Yeah.
it's definitely better.
Yeah. Well, and better experience too on the how the volume and stuff, not having to fiddle with volume on 2 places and all that as well.
Right.
Ran out of air there. Connect for Windows launched today. Or
Yesterday,
I guess.
$250 more expensive than the Xbox version.
Yeah,
but
much more expensive.
the hardware is actually a little bit different.
Well, it comes with the license though. It comes with a license to publish software.
Okay.
Like the SDK, you can only use now and get full support with this hardware. As opposed to the Xbox.
So this is only really being aimed at developers, right? There's not so basically a dev kit because there's no real end user reason to own one for your PC yet.
The end user reason will be in 6 months when the first software comes out. I mean, it's literally the pictures that they have on the site are the surgeon waving his hands to see the imagery and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then there were rumors earlier in this week about ASUS putting Kinect camera and hardware in the future laptops, or at least Microsoft. Microsoft, pushing out some developer samples of Kinect hardware in laptops. I think it's super stupid. I don't know why you would want a laptop with Kinect built in. Sure, you get better audio if you have 2 mics and depth perception with 2 cameras, but I really don't see how that's going to affect my day-to-day use of a laptop.
I'm inclined to agree.
The one thing that does change with the Windows Connect is that it has a a closer, better resolution at near range.
Yeah, so you don't have to sit 6 feet away.
So you don't have to sit 6 feet away. Yeah. But other than that, it's basically it has an extra focusing layer or something. But other than that, the hardware is the same.
I think too often people are enamored by the Minority Report UI thing, and Microsoft has pushed this natural user interface, study for years of how with Surface and stuff, but I don't think people want to be waving your hands in front of the computer, or even facial recognition to unlock your computer. I don't think that's the best use of this technology.
I'll still be interested to see what comes out of it though, because a lot of that homebrew stuff that we started to see was more interesting than a lot of the official software. Piloting gyrocopters and all kinds of crazy applications. And that was just a handful of people that had hacked the Xbox version. Now that it's being made readily available to whoever wants to play with it, I think we'll see some interesting stuff.
Well, and even those cool hack demos, like we talked about this a little bit last week, but it was really hard to get them running because there's like 6 different SDKs out there for different platforms.
Yeah, there's an official way to do it now.
Now that there's an official way to do it, if people port their stuff over to that, it could be really exciting.
I think the flashy implementations to Connect, the stuff that's the most hand-waving, arm-waving stuff, is going to be the least interesting in the long run, and the stuff that is more subtle, like the Tobii Eye tracking stuff, where it just enhances things that you already do with your computer. That's going to be the more interesting things.
Well, it's funny because a lot of the stuff, even on the Kinect, like when I stand in front of the Kinect, it never recognizes me unless I take my glasses off. Ever. I always have to take the glasses off.
There's a lot of troubleshooting. I mean, like a Siri level technology, this has the potential to be really useful, but also has to be the potential to be really frustrating.
Well, and I mean, this seems like it should be codified into some sort of law, but basically the idea that when something works, it has to work exactly as you'd expect every single time. Because the problem with Siri is the one time a week that it fails, you just chuck the fucking iPhone.
Wow, only one time a week for you?
Well, I don't use it anymore because one time a week that it failed.
It's like playing poker. You only remember your bad hands. You
no,
only
it's
remember
true.
when it fails.
We've said this before. It's really started to bug me with Siri lately, though. Is again for every time it works, you're just like, yeah, that's what's supposed to happen.
Yep.
But when it doesn't work, it's infuriating.
It's become something that the only thing I use it for is the stuff that I know it's going to be close enough on. Like, hey, send a text to my wife, tell her I'm on the way home. Right? I mean, that is literally what I use Siri for now. I don't use Siri to find where there's something near me. I don't use it to find directions.
I found it useful for dictating things. If I just need to make a quick reminder to myself, I can just dictate it, and it'll and the text doesn't have to be great. It just has to be enough for me to remember it when I get home.
Yeah.
That's all well and good.
Yeah.
But it fails to recognize me or connect to the network so many times. It's very un-Apple-like, I think, this product, because it doesn't work a lot of it. It just works. No, it doesn't. It doesn't just work a lot of the time.
On the ghetto, get the gray bag. When I get home, don't forget to get the gray bag.
It's kind of like the Seinfeld thing where he writes the joke down in the middle of the night and then can't read his own handwriting
it really
the next
is.
morning.
That's exactly it. That is exactly it. So yeah, I mean that's out. It's a thing. Sony announced numbers yesterday. They lost like $2 billion last quarter. Kaz, I didn't.
More
read the story.
importantly, Stringer's out.
Yeah, so
Oh, wow.
Kaz.
Sir Howard, who was on stage shaking Will Smith's hand at CES, talking about
Hold on, I didn't shake his hand
Well,
at CES.
the Will Smith that matters.
Oh, thanks.
Sir Howard Stringer has been the CEO of Sony for 7 years. He was the first CEO, president of Sony that was a foreigner.
Right.
Didn't speak any Japanese. And Kaz, who had been put in to run Sony's consumer electronics division with the success of PlayStation after the founder of PlayStation was pushed out, is now the CEO. I think it's a relatively good thing. If you read the history on Kaz in the New York Times, I think the Wall Street Journal has a profile of everything he's done. And also Kaz himself did like outline how he envisions changing Sony. I think it's a good change. I think Howard Stringer's the products he launched at Sony weren't exciting. Although, if you remember from like a couple months back, after the Steve Jobs biography came out, everyone was talking about Apple moving into the TV business and how existing TV manufacturers react to that. Stringer did make a big comment about, Sony has for the past 5 years been developing the next, TV revolution, and
Just like Apple.
sure, and we didn't see that at CES at all.
They barely had TVs at CES.
They barely had TVs, but their big online, my memories thing, their cloud launch was not very impressive.
Do you think that their next TV revolution is 4K? Is that what they're saying?
No.
Just resolution increase?
No. Next TV revolution has to be a way. It's less about the TV, the physical TV, and more about what type of content you're putting on the TV, and how you're getting that content.
Well, one would think that, but
yeah.
I mean.
Kaz is a really big proponent of user experience. He created divisions in Sony just to study user experience.
Well, that seems that's gone well for them so far.
And if you look at the products, look at Sony products in terms of cameras, the PlayStation, obviously, TVs, and everything else they make. Which Sony product has the best user experience?
Probably the camera you have is of the stuff I've used. Like the thing about Sony is their highs are really high, but their lows are real bad.
Yeah, it's not very unified at all.
No.
I think the PlayStation has a decent user experience.
I like the XMB, but I think
really good.
At this point it's hard for me to tell whether that's because it's familiar and hasn't changed versus Microsoft seemingly schizophrenic every year we're going to make it slightly worse strategy. I don't know.
It's always interesting when there's a big change at the top. It's when a company is that large, it's like a cruise ship. It's very difficult to change direction quickly. And the only way to do it is if there is like a change from the very, very top leadership. So I think Kaz is obviously a very smart guy. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Who was it that said that people were going to save money for months to buy a PS3?
That was the founder of the PS3.
That was the
Ken.
that was Ken.
Ken Kutaragi.
Ken Kutaragi.
Yes, he was pushed out when he announced that PlayStation, their business was losing $2 billion a year.
Just their business.
Just the PlayStation business. And Kaz came in and turned that around by cutting costs. He made tough cuts. I mean, there's an anecdote about cutting manufacturing costs, not in terms of the employees, but like using silk screens instead of actually etching Sony onto the hardware. Yeah.
Yeah. So decreasing quality.
Sometimes it's about, it's not sexy, but sometimes it's about having that eye for detail. Again, one of the reasons why Apple has been so successful is because of people like Tim Cook that just kind of get into the nitty gritty of like every unsexy part of the, widgets and supply chains and things, and they make it work. It's not necessarily about having the most revolutionary. For someone like Sony, I don't think it's ever going to be about having the most revolutionary new product or whatever, because they haven't been very innovative in hardware in a long time. But it can be about just making really high quality products and actually making money on each one that you sell.
Yeah.
It turns out that's a key.
Tremendously good at.
Right. You have more faith in a company when you realize the guy at the top is, he's doing the day-to-day stuff and he has a really good attention to detail, good eye for detail.
Well, yeah, because you don't want to get called on the carpet and have him pick your product apart. I mean, that gives you strong incentive to be awesome. Microsoft is making adjustments to the Windows 8 file manager based on feedback from users. Comments posted to the Building Windows 8 blog, which I find the interesting thing about this is they didn't build some amazing web tool or anything like that to kind of capture comments or use ThinkUp or some off-the-shelf product. They just wrote down comments with a notepad and put little ticks next to them. So, but the feedback, the things that are changing are interesting and I think good. Number 1 on my list, Windows 8 will read EXIF data from JPEGs and orient them properly in preview when you're looking at it in Windows File Explorer. Thank you.
Yes.
No, this is a huge. It is idiotic that this doesn't happen now.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that something that should just happen anyway? Like, why are we so grateful for something that we should just expect
this should have
to
happened
begin with?
with Vista.
If it's just standardized in Windows, it doesn't mean that it's going to be standardized anywhere else. And that's having EXIF data for your picture orientation. I'd rather the picture be just right initially. Like, it doesn't actually rotate the picture. It's just the way it displays it is rotated.
But the way the rest of the industry works is that it doesn't actually rotate the picture. It just looks at the. This is a kind of semantic argument too. I mean, if the orientation data is in the EXIF data, then that's the thing that is. That's what it should be. The thing that decides.
Yeah, I still find myself when I move pictures over into Windows, rotating every one. Because that's how Windows reads it.
I just don't do photo work in Windows because it's idiotic. Because then when you rotate every one, then the EXIF data is wrong. So when you pull it into Lightroom or something like that, it's going to be jacked up then.
But Photoshop will recognize it.
Oh, this is a conversation we should not have to have in 2012.
Yeah,
I agree. That seems kind of silly.
Yeah. They're skipping unnecessary file conflicts. So when you copy a bunch of files into a folder and it says, "Oh, hey, do you want to skip or replace or make a copy of this one?" If the files are identical size, modified dates, and something else, I can't remember what the third factor was, it's just not going to prompt you. It's just going to leave the... If it thinks that it's a duplicate, it's not going to...
A large part of this blog and also previous blogs have been dedicated to the idea of like file management. And I mean, something as simple as copy and moving files, like a big group of files. What happens if your computer goes to sleep when you're transferring, 400 files, right? And then now you can pause
halfway through.
Well, now you can pause and resume, and it won't auto resume.
It does it automatically.
And it's little nuts and bolts things like this that really make an OS a pleasure to use. It's not about Ripley effects or Aero this or that. It's just about common sense, everyday stuff working the way it's
and the fact that they're making this transparent and talking about the development process and writing these blogs, something we've said before Apple will never do.
Yeah.
That's why I appreciate Microsoft as a company.
It's things that happened this happened in Windows 7 too. Like they added the option to put the downloads folder on the start menu. I don't know about you, but the downloads folder is probably the folder I spend the most time working in.
Really? I download it straight to desktop.
Oh, that's crazy.
Why?
Because it's going to make a huge mess on your desktop.
No, and then it lets me.
Oh, I keep downloads folder for years. I have GeForce 4 drivers in my downloads folder probably.
It's true that Microsoft seems to have a much more open process about this. Like the only time Apple ever really acknowledges this stuff is like once a year they'll get up on WWDC and say, "Hey, we heard a bunch of you say you wanted cut and paste, so here it is," and that's pretty much it.
That's it.
Whereas with Microsoft, it feels like an ongoing dialogue with the community.
No, Apple puts it in that when they release a new version of the OS, whether it's iOS or OS 10 at this point, they have a list of here are the 500 changes in this OS.
Right, but it's not here's how we came to these changes.
Yeah,
but I don't.
And what changes would you like to see and things like that.
Well, it's never what changes would you like to see.
Right.
And
I mean, they clearly are listening. They're just not soliciting advice.
Yeah, and they're not pleased with themselves when they.
Although I'd be surprised if there wasn't some kind of process at Apple where they did occasionally have developers and people come in and have a discussion.
Well, if nothing else, they can look at what's happening, what people are talking about on their message boards, on the support boards, and on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. They're syncing Explorer settings between computers through Live, which is that's a good ad. And I think that's the big stuff. PowerShell is more accessible.
These like core Windows features are the things that will push me to upgrade to Windows 8 much more than the new start screen and Metro UI stuff, because that stuff, while I hope it'll work great on tablets, is not interesting to me at all from the desktop perspective.
Right, and I think I like that the fact that they're having the conversation is a good thing. I think overall.
I think having a likable figurehead and voice for your product is so important these days when everyone writes about them and when we follow companies. Like,
is that Sinofsky at this point?
Yeah, Sinofsky, even Stephen Elop and Nokia, and Kaz being likable, having a good headed company, smart dude, someone you can have faith in, but also someone who's likable. Like, that's why we're all not only skeptical about Facebook, but skeptical about Zuckerberg too. Yeah. Right. I mean, I'm less interested in investing in Facebook because I know where that money's going.
Well, but the thing, you're not investing in Facebook anyway. But the point is, like the Kevin Butler thing, which is where Sony tried to do this the first time, was clearly a fake actor figurehead.
Oh yeah, I mean that's not the same
comedic.
thing at all. That's just a marketing personality.
Right.
Well, but I think Norm's point is that the marketing personality has to be like when the marketing personality and the person driving the car are the same, it's much more effective than you feel like there's somebody in charge.
Right, and it's not like the Jay Allard way of yes, he's the guy running that
Leader of the
division,
tribe,
but
the
also
shaman.
but also he has to be marketed up and put on the fancy new clothes and stuff.
Right.
That is
Shave his
today's
head.
super unappealing. But we'll get to this later. Someone like a Ron Johnson running JCPenney, when he talks and when he does interviews, it seems like he's honest and
Yeah,
and
Bezos has
sincere.
the same
exactly.
quality.
Yeah, I think that's definitely super important for big companies.
No Galaxy S3 at Mobile World Congress. Rumors about Samsung are rife with those this week.
Coming out of CES, right, when we talk about the big manufacturing companies in the world, or big consumer electronics companies, right, Apple's number one, and I think it's pretty safe to say Samsung is a close number two. And Sony wishes they were in that position. So Mobile World Congress is at the end of February, and it's traditionally where the big new Android handsets are announced for the year outside of CTIA. Last year is where the Galaxy S2 was announced. CTIA in 2010 was where the Galaxy S1 was announced.
Yeah.
CES, Samsung's big push was Galaxy Note, and we expect that at Mobile World Congress they'll be pushing something new.
A real product.
It's never a real product. The Galaxy Note was more of a real product than any other thing they've announced because it's been out.
Yeah, whether it's out or not, it's not a mass product.
That's wait till you see that Super Bowl ad. That's what they're pushing.
Okay.
At Mobile World Congress this year, there will be no Galaxy S3 because
the Galaxy Nexus is the Galaxy S3.
Could be. I think they'll probably share a lot of similar attributes, just like when HTC announced the Incredible and the Nexus One.
There will presumably be one though, because the S2 was so hugely successful.
But when they announced the S2, it was in Europe for half a year before it was in America.
Right,
And I
and
think
then
they'll probably wait later, closer to when they actually can deliver.
Well,
a product to market.
and literally the S2's was 3 months old when the Galaxy Nexus came out.
And really, they probably consider it fairly still young in the. I mean, it's the Apple, the guys with the fake Apple hipsters, right? That's the S2 that are advertising,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, that big marketing push only started really recently.
Yeah.
So they probably want to try and sell more of these first.
Right. So Samsung has made a statement saying that they'll have their own event, private event for the S3 announcement. It warrants its own.
So this is how trade shows die.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think
This is
companies want to be less beholden to trade show schedules and make announcements.
Yeah,
on
I
their own
agree.
time.
I don't understand the point of them at all.
No, I mean
They're
it's
for the little guys that can't justify their own events, but increasingly the bigger guys
Or can't get people
like
to their
Apple
own
and
events.
Samsung and Microsoft are big enough to do their own things, and create their own excitement.
But the big rumor
this is a good rumor.
is both Point Junior support and I forget who the other
It was Mac
site.
rumors, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't a Mac site. They're doubling down on this rumor that Samsung will announce their next super tablet at Mobile World Congress. And this is a tablet that will use a 2560 by 1600 10.1-inch display.
Okay.
So this is actually a panel that Samsung demoed last year.
So it's iPad
a panel
size, right?
Conference. Yeah, same. So it's like a Galaxy Tab 10.1 right now, but maybe a little bigger. They're saying it's a Galaxy Tab 11, but with the resolution of what like Will and I have on a 30-inch monitor.
Wow.
About 300 ppi.
So it's iPhone 4 pixel density.
A little less than
On a
iPhone
10-inch
4
screen,
on a
basically.
10-inch screen though,
Yeah.
and but it is a Pentile screen.
Ew.
That's the one that they announced last
That
year.
resolution you might not even notice though.
That's the thing. And they say that it'll be a quad core with that screen with a long battery life.
The thing that's interesting to me about this is using the iPad. I think I probably use the iPad at this point more than either of you guys.
Yeah, I think you definitely do.
Like playing games like Ascension and card games and stuff like that, where there's a lot of detail text, you frequently end up having to blow up the card in order to
Right.
see it. And when you're playing the same game on the iPhone 4, even though there's fewer pixels, you don't have that problem.
That's going to be a game changer. Those really, really high. When you've got Retina level displays on bigger screens,
Yeah.
you're going to be able to do so much more.
Quad resolution screens are very exciting.
I think
I still don't think they're real.
Blows
but
my mind that we're getting a 2560 by 1600 pixel screen on something that's smaller than my 11-inch MacBook Air right now.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think for reasonable prices, it's still unlikely this year.
Samsung has never released products in reasonable prices. They'll do stuff on contract. I think it's going to. I mean, Mobile World Congress. We'll see. I want to believe it, and that goes straight into the iPad 3 rumors.
Yeah.
Now we've heard rumors for a long time that they'll pixel double this year on the iPad 3. That's what we're all hoping for. The screens were ready last year, but didn't get pushed out with the iPad 2. So this year seems about right. There's no. I think it's very unlikely that Apple's going to release an iPad this year with a 1024 by 768 screen. Especially when 1280 by 800 is pretty much a standard for 16 by 9 Android.
I don't think they're going to release a 16 by 9 iPad.
I don't think they do a 16 by 9 iPad either.
Yeah.
I think it'll be the pixel doubling the 20. What is it? 2000.
2160 by
or whatever the pixel double of 1024 by 768 is.
2048 by.
But the rumor this week.
1536.
Yeah, something by 1536. Yeah. Is that it'll be a quad core with instead of a 3G model, it'll have a 4G LTE model, and it'll be Apple's first 4G LTE device, which makes a lot of sense.
And again, once you tried LTE, it's pretty great.
Yeah, Gary, you're not interested in this product because you have the MiFi.
I've already got I've got my LTE through my little device, so I wouldn't need the LTE. But the bigger conversation, I'm actually on the fence. I know I say this every year, but I'm actually on the fence about the iPad 3 because I don't use it that much anymore. I think the Retina display, if it has the high res display, and when you look at it, you just go, holy shit, then yeah, I'm probably gonna have to get one. But I don't need one because even my iPad 2 kind of mostly gathers dust now. I use my MacBook Air a lot more.
See, I use the iPad literally if I'm at home, I'm usually using the iPad.
And I know Norm's going to be all over it as well because he skipped the iPad 2. So he's going to have
no brainer.
He's been banking on the luxury of that double upgrade.
Yeah.
Which is always very sweet.
Yeah.
That's what I miss out on because I buy the new one every year because I'm an idiot. I only see the incremental upgrade, whereas Norm's going to get the double generation step up.
It's like stepping into the future.
Yeah.
We'll see how we'll see how all this falls out. I'm still bearish on a 2560 on a quad resolution iPad. I think that's still a little crazy.
So Jim Dalrymple, the guy who writes the Loop blog,
yes,
he's
on
noted
on
Apple
ours?
blogger. No, he runs his own thing.
There's his infinite loop.
He has said that through his sources, Apple will not have an event, product launch event in February. So it'll probably be March. That's what we're hoping for. If Samsung announces their super Android tablet, running Ice Cream Sandwich with 2560 1600 screen and quad core and maybe even LTE at Mobile World Congress, do you think that will have an impact on the iPad 3 launch?
I don't think that Apple is really concerned about what's going on with Android tablets these
I don't
days.
think Apple cares at all.
I actually think, it's interesting. Apple, I think, is a unique case sometimes because you usually, with corporations, you would say, well, if you're not looking at or you don't care about what your competitors are doing, that's really stupid and negligent. But I honestly think Apple doesn't. I don't think they give a shit.
I don't think it affects them at all. People can say, "Oh, look, Samsung had it a month earlier." Apple does not care. Sheer momentum.
You're saying Apple is the honey badger of the phone world,
yes,
tablet world.
Yeah, Apple don't give a shit.
Wow.
I'm eating a snake.
Yeah,
Apple's eating a snake.
I think it's actually really true. I think with the Android tablet sales, I think phones are a different story. I think tablets, Apple has, always kind of keeping an eye out, obviously.
And it's a very...
I think they're looking at the broader market, the zeitgeist, the bigger picture. But I don't like the image of the guy bursting through a colleague's door at Apple and going, holy shit, we might have to change something. Look at what Samsung just announced. That never happens there, I'm sure.
I don't know, dude. You read the book.
I'd say that they're less reactive than other. They don't have to be reactive.
Reactionary, you mean?
Or reactionary. But I think they do take some things into account. But it's a minuscule thing. And they're in a very fortunate position. No other company can afford to be in that position.
I think that scene I just described happens in their legal department a lot. They're like, well, let's sue them.
That's probably true.
But I don't think it affects their product line.
I don't know. They talked about changing hardware, but that was more because of what they could do, not because of what somebody else was doing.
Right. So the factors they consider when determining the timing of a product launch, is how well their existing products are selling and what the state of manufacturing is.
So where is the
supply chain?
Where is the smart money right now on when the iPad 3 would be announced?
Mid-March.
Yeah,
and since it'll be.
That's the calendar. their yearly calendar is pretty established at this point.
Yeah.
Right, like iPhones and iPods in the fall, like around late summer, September.
Well, I think that's the big
that.
question. I think yeah.
But I'm saying that's the pattern right now. Some people are saying that the iPhone 5 could even be in the summer.
Yeah.
I think that it would start to irritate people if they didn't give their product a full year.
I think if it's in the summer, it's summer 2013, not summer 2012. I think if
you think they'll go a year without a new phone? Investors will never stand for that.
It depends on how the iPhone 4S sells.
Although again, if I'm Tim Cook and my investor's on the phone, I'm saying, are you really calling me up to fucking complain?
Yeah.
Did you see how much money we just made for you motherfuckers?
That. Yeah.
What are you complaining about exactly?
And
you can only
he
buy
drops the phone and walks away?
10 fucking Learjets?
Yeah.
With what we just made you? What is your problem, bitch?
I think that's how the investor. I think Gary. I think you should actually run the Apple investor call in the future.
I would. God, because you're in such a dominant position. You're like, I don't want to hear anything from you people except a round of applause. And
right, so Tim
send
Cook
me
doesn't say a
boxes
word.
of chocolates and flowers.
Peter
And
Oppenheimer
other
doesn't say a word.
Just send me tributes.
Yeah, they glance at
I
Gary.
don't want to hear a single fucking complaint out of any of you.
Right. $13 billion, drops the phone, walks away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that happens that way.
Excuse me, I have an appointment with a contractor who's designing me a giant vault. Swimming pool.
I think we've talked about this enough. Let's move on. Did you see the 1 mile self-guided bullet? The laser-guided bullet?
I was on News
I saw
Today.
something like that on CSI Miami.
Yeah.
Well,
now
cool.
it's real.
I've seen that on anime.
Yeah, it's definitely an anime thing. It's like a bullet missile. It's a 12-inch or 10-inch long bullet. It has fins and a sensor in the opening that actually detects the laser. So somebody gets up close, aims a laser at a guy, and then the bullet fires from like 2 miles away, 10 miles.
Gene Simmons was doing that 20 years ago in Runaway. You ever see that movie? He had that bullet gun, could shoot bullets around corners.
Well, it's like Wanted, but not lame.
Yeah.
The thing I wonder though is if you can aim the laser from, like, you get close enough to hit the thing you want to kill with the laser, why not just shoot them with the gun?
Laser targeting, you don't usually do that up close.
You gotta get pretty close.
No, you don't. You can be on a hilltop and do laser targeting.
Like rifle distance away?
Yeah.
Or is this from Arma or is this from real life?
It's from Arma.
They had
and
this
various games.
This whole CSI episode was kind of interesting. It was based around like the murder of a Steve Jobs type. He was clearly meant to be a Steve Jobs type figure. But he was in a wheelchair. He was like a cross between like Stephen Hawking and Steve Jobs. So he was like this genius guy, and he'd been killed by a bullet. He'd been shot on his rooftop.
Okay.
And they couldn't. There was no line of sight. You know, usually they run like the lasers and the
Yeah.
ropes and stuff, and they figure out the different angles.
Yeah,
There's no line of sight, and they had figured out they'd been killed with this bullet that his brother had been killed in Afghanistan or whatever by friendly fire. He's like, I'm going to design the most accurate bullet ever made. And it was a gun where you could, again, it's the same thing. Once you designated the target, the bullet would just find it. Like it would go around corners and stuff. It was ridiculous.
Like in Dune.
That's why I want to watch CSI.
It had tiny little rudders that came out and like steered
This bullet has rudders.
Yeah. Ailerons and things, and
God.
they could adjust its course. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
It's a real thing now, so we got that going for us.
They should only make one of those bullets.
And I'm sure you guys also saw the aerodrones, the quadricopters flying in formation.
Yeah, quadricopters are fucking amazing,
but also terrifying.
It's are.
It's how Judgment Day starts.
I tell you what's badass. Did you see that thing that apparently is in the new defense? But you know, Obama's like restructuring the Defense Department, so we're going to spend less money, but we're going to make cooler stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things is like a floating base of operations that like they can launch commando raids and stuff.
I remember that from G.I. Joe.
Yeah,
I remember that was from like James Bond. Tomorrow Never Dies.
No, that was a stealth ship.
That was a stealth, but it was
that
basically
was a stealth
base.
aircraft carrier, basically.
Yeah, and they launched.
I don't know.
An aircraft carrier is a base that floats. You realize that?
Yes.
But this is much. I think this is much smaller, and they can like get it, and they can deploy it places much quicker. They probably just drop it out of a Hercules or something, and it's there like in 6 hours rather than 6 days.
I want to talk about Act of Valor. You guys seen this movie?
The SEAL thing?
The Navy SEAL movie?
This looks terrible.
So apparently these filmmakers were hired by Navy to shoot like a promo video, and then they did such a good job that they turned into a full movie.
Yeah, it's like real Navy SEALs.
It's real Navy SEALs, and the real Navy SEALs are active duty SEALs.
Yeah.
That their names won't be in the credits.
Right.
It's basically Modern Warfare the movie.
Wow.
Based on the description, like they'll rescue like a captured CIA operative, and then they uncover a big plot to destroy the world.
You have to decide whether or not you want to shoot the civilians in the Russian airport.
I don't think that's going to be in the movie.
Oh, okay.
But Relatively Media, which made a ton of money last year with Limitless, the awesome pill, has so much money now. They bought the movie for $15 million and have 4 Super Bowl ads this weekend.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I can see. I can see. I can see it doing well because it feels patriotic. The idea that it's real Navy SEALs, and and also for people like us, you always you want to feel comfortable in the authenticity of it, and so I feel pretty comfortable that these guys are doing that this is a real depiction because these are the real dudes.
They shot in real training facilities using live fire because Navy SEALs train with live fire. They don't use no rubber bullets, no blanks.
Serious shit.
Yeah, it's cool. They also shot it with Canon 5D Mark IIs, so it's all shot with DSLR cameras. And in the behind-the-scenes clip, I think the movie. I don't know if the movie's gonna be any good. I feel kind of bad promoting it. But when they were shooting the movie, they had like the director, cinematographers laying on their back with like just a DSLR, and on the viewfinder on the back, they had like 2 pieces of tape for their crop, for their CinemaScope crop.
Oh wow!
Because it's not really meant to shoot, widescreen stuff. But I'm kind of interested.
Oh yeah, it could be interesting. It's certainly an interesting way to make a movie.
I mean, it can't be worse than the last movie featuring Navy SEALs, which was Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen.
No, there are Navy SEAls in the movies all the time.
Yeah, but that was the movie about
the last one
Navy
actually
SEAls.
made about
Yeah,
them. Okay.
That was a terrible movie. Remember he jumps off of the car going over a bridge? It's the only thing I remember. He like jumps out of the back of a 4x4 Wrangler over the edge of a bridge and then dives 200 feet into the water.
Michael Biehn has made a good career out of playing Navy SEAls.
Who's Michael Biehn?
Michael Biehn. Terminator.
Oh,
Kyle Reese.
Right.
Because he was the head of the Navy SEAls in The Rock as well.
Oh, yeah. That's good Navy SEAls.
I cannot do that.
There was some. I will not give that order. There was some badass Navy SEAls. Yeah, they all got murdered. But it was,
why is there a prequel to The Watchmen and not a prequel to The Rock?
I would totally what would the prequel to The Rock be?
It's Ed Harris. It's the Ed Harris story.
I'd rather see the Sean Connery story.
Well, that's good too.
Well,
Either of those
James
works.
Bond.
Right.
That's all James Bond movies.
Yeah. I guess, what Norm said. But the Ed Harris story seems like it'd be good, too. Like the Afghanistan going horribly. What was it? People died on Black Ops.
Well, it was interesting. This is an example how sometimes of how like developing a script can really make it better because the original version of that script when it was written back in the day
of The Rock,
yes,
okay,
was that they were ex-military and they were badass commandos, but it was just money. They wanted like diamonds or something, and I think somewhere along the line,
because it was The Rock, and then it's about
I mean maybe I don't remember. It was basically just a high. It was basically kind of more like a Die Hard type high. It's like we're holding hostages and you will give us this ransom. And somewhere on the line it was decided that we need to make it would be more interesting if we make these bad guys still dangerous but more sympathetic, like give them a more interesting motive, which was this guy had gotten sick of all of the men under his command like being disavowed, and he lost a lot of men on black missions, and
then they got no benefits or whatever.
And all he wanted was that for those families to be given some kind of restitution. So what he was doing was obviously an act of terrorism. But it was at least more interesting, and of course they were able to redeem him at the end because of it.
And it makes Ed Harris a likable character instead of just an out-and-out villain.
And you still have the fucking stone cold psychos under
the mercenaries.
Yeah.
Right. The interesting thing about that is like the Die Hard effect. One of the things that's happened with Die Hard since 9/11 is it's much more interesting. That twist is much better now, I think, in a world that is afraid of terrorists much more than it was in like 1986. Because you watch that and you're like, oh shit, it's a terrorism movie. You see that for the first time today. Yeah, it's actually
interesting to go back to like that and realize that was made in '88 when really America didn't have much of a terrorism was something that happened to other people.
Yeah, in Beirut.
Yeah.
So and Ireland. And
England. And that's the weird thing. Terrorism, up until then, I think in the United States was almost somewhat romanticized because of the IRA.
Yeah.
Like people thought that thought of them as freedom fighters or whatever.
Well, in the 80s,
and now I think terrorism is kind of obviously now that it's here.
They would come to bars and raise money for the legitimate front of the IRA in the United States, and I don't think that would happen anymore. Of course, the IRA is not really it's a different.
It's a different world today.
Intel launches a bunch of new Sandy Bridge CPUs. Do we care?
It's a very quiet launch. 7 new CPUs, some Celeron processors. A bunch of them qualify for the new overclocking warranty. Like Lloyd said last week, there's no problem buying Sandy Bridge CPUs now because Ivy Bridge really is just the better built-in graphics and different process. So if you have 1155 motherboard and and you're looking to upgrade,
it's giving you life to your 1155 motherboard, basically. That's good.
Yeah.
And those K CPUs are the ones that have the overclocking warranty, right? It's interesting. Office 15, there have been 15 versions of Office. I mean, that's crazy. I guess when they switched to the yearly numbering scheme, you kind of lose track. But B, they're not going to use Metro, which seems like we learned.
That's a rumor, but yes.
Given the release schedules and all that, it seems pretty likely. It means that there won't be Metro compatible front ends for the Office, and probably there'll be separate add-ons later that give you that functionality to Windows 8 ARM tablets.
I care so little about Microsoft Office now.
When was the last time you had Office
there's so many
installed?
better ways to work.
Like, if you asked me 3 years ago, what are my essential, when I reinstall Windows, or install Windows 7, what are the first things I got to install? Well, you got to install, Adobe Photoshop. I got to install like a chat client, Google Chrome. Back then, I guess Firefox and Microsoft Office because I need.
Did you take Firefox off the list?
Firefox 10 is not interesting.
I put that on the list, and then you took it off the list.
I actually did take it off the list.
I was going to. It was on there just so I could say, "Hey, Firefox 10 came out. Does anybody care?"
I literally took it off the list because I cared so little about it.
I just wanted people to say, "Does anybody care about Firefox 10? Do you
No.
care about Firefox 10,
No.
Norm? Do
No.
you care about Firefox 10, Gary?
No.
Okay. Good
but
talk.
Office today, I don't think it would be even an essential install.
No, you'd use Google Docs or
The only
any
thing,
of the other options that are out
the best
there.
part of Office, I think, is Excel, and even Excel has a lot of
Outlook.
problems.
Outlook is the part of Office that people say they can't live without.
I mean, this the reason why Office persists is because it's the embedded system for so many businesses. It's what IT supports. It's just what you use. But I think if you were and again, if you've got a lot of work that you're bringing home from the office and you want a compatible system, but if you're just looking to do your own thing,
if you're writing
you
papers
don't
in
need
college,
Microsoft Office.
Here's the thing. This is one of those places where we live in a special world. Because if you are in a big business and you have a spreadsheet that 20 different people work on, Office is the way you do that. Like Google Docs is great, but it is woefully inadequate when you get to large data sets and massive, massive data files. Yeah. So that there is definitely a place for Office, but Office for the home user is I think a thing of the past probably, except for the bringing work home.
I agree, especially
and I think
it's relatively expensive.
You don't like
and
Word
there
art?
are free alternatives.
Well, when you bring Office work home now, usually you bring it home on your work issued laptop, so it's not like you need a copy of Excel on your home machine.
Yeah.
The problem. The thing with Excel that bugs me is the window management. Like, I don't know if you guys use Excel regularly.
No, I hate Excel. I don't hate it. I just don't know use for it.
Yeah, it's not a thing in your.
But you know how, like in Word, when you open multiple instances of Word, it is a separate instance. With Excel, it's one instance with multiple windows, and there's no easy way to tile them.
You used to be able to change that and put it in the normal window manager, and I don't know how that works with the current versions of Office, of Excel.
Yeah, maybe there's a way.
The thing that I find is using Google Docs, because I use Google Docs for everything these days. Things like type ahead formula search and all that is much, much better and much further along in Excel, obviously, than it is in Google Docs. But for most of what I use, the convenience of being able to share it easily and have it accessible on all the different machines I use on my phone, my tablet, and all that far outweighs the extra time setting up a spreadsheet than Anyway, I think we're a special case. I think we're edge cases on this, but I think it's probably indicative of where the future is going.
The bigger story for this is that it seems like this is a mistake for Microsoft for Metro, because if they're not going to launch Windows 8 or Office 15 with a Metro version, then it really gives. It's not like they're committing fully.
It's the same. It's the same. Literally, the same thing happened with touch interfaces. The first time they tried to push touch in 2001, 2002, Microsoft released XP Tablet Edition, and then Office continued to not support pen for the next 10 years, and that without Office support, that killed it. The point, I think, the thing that's changed now is I don't think Office support is absolutely vital to new initiatives from Microsoft. I don't think it's important. I don't think it's as important as it was 10 years ago. Because 10 years ago, Office was a must-have piece of software. I don't think it is anymore. Windows Phone 8 news.
Oh yeah, this just came out like as we started the podcast. Microsoft has a video with Joe Belfiore, talking about Windows 8 Apollo. Now, Windows Phone.
Waiting for Windows 8
7.
Starbuck, personally.
They just call it Windows Phone now, right?
They do.
That's
The
how
version
it's
number
branded.
is 7. I don't know how Tango is numbered. 7.5 is Mango.
7.5 is Mango.
And we assume 8 is Apollo. And he outlines a bunch of changes. I haven't read it completely, but basically they'll have support for different hardware. It won't be as fixed hardware as it currently is. So you have multi-core support, different resolution support, micro SD cards, NFC radios. One thing that people are kind of, at least immediate gut reaction, they're outraged about is that they're kind of doing away with the Zune software to sync with Windows 8, and they've described a new piece of software which some people are afraid it'll be active sync again, to sync the Windows 8 with your phone. I don't think they're going to regress back to active sync. I think the lessons they learned from Zune. It'll just be the Zune software, but without all the music stuff.
Maybe. I mean, right now the Zune software, the reason you use Zune software with Windows is to update the software and to put music on the phone, right? So it'll basically be like the Mac connector is what Microsoft's clear direction on Windows going forward, both on the phone and on desktop and tablet, is syncing through Live. Like that is the way they're going to get you into Live, because they want people using Live.
Yeah. For
reasons that no
Live
one can
and
tell.
SkyDrive and all their
They're not even calling SkyDrive anymore. It's just Live. It's live data. I mean, it may still be labeled SkyDrive, but it's just the way you sync settings and files and stuff like that between multiple devices.
I think Apollo looks like it'll be a good upgrade to Windows Phone right now.
Wow, condescending iPhone user update.
No, I think it'll be genuinely good.
Yeah, they're doing a nice job. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah.
Pat in the head.
Yeah, you guys are so cute over there with 2%.
There's always a horse in Redmond that suits up and runs.
I'm just going to describe every time they announce something exciting new initiative. I'm just going to call it adorable.
That's adorable.
Look, I just want to pinch his little rosy cheeks.
Tesla pricing has been announced for the Coupe, for the S.
Sock it to me.
It's a saloon.
It's a saloon? Is that what they call it? Oh, that's what it means? Okay.
It doesn't matter if I can afford it or not. I'm going to be on the back of a very long waiting list, aren't I?
Yes. If you should put your name on the list right now.
I've got to do the Jerry Seinfeld thing.
Oh, yeah, the Honda. You got access to my my San Francisco...
My personal zip lines.
Zip line.
That's right.
Downtown San Francisco from Transamerica Building all the way to Golden Gate Bridge.
Wait, what?
Have you not seen... Oh, you haven't seen the commercial?
I don't watch commercials.
Okay.
Seinfeld has...
A lot of the Super Bowl spots are already going online.
That's no fun.
Yeah, I know. It kind of takes away from the
Why
event.
would you watch the game then?
Well, I mean, it's a good way to spot
Giants and
so you don't have to worry about missing them. But they all get shown afterwards. It's like, why would you tease these ahead of time? The whole spots
That
are out there.
YouTube page.
It's not
That's one
gonna
of the biggest
stop people
YouTube pages of the year.
Yeah,
But it's not going to stop people from watching the Super Bowl.
of
It's
course.
give additional exposure to
They just want it to be as viral as possible. And
Exactly.
by the way, that Acura concept looks pretty sweet, don't you think? That car looks nice.
Wait, was it for a Honda?
It was like an
word picture.
NSX.
Oh, it was an Acura, yeah.
Yeah, it was
they're
an
bringing back the
Acura.
NSX?
I don't even know what the
It's an Acura NSX concept, and it looks pretty
Oh
sweet.
my God, that
but
was
the
the coolest car of the
commercial,
90s.
I'll show it to you.
Wow.
The commercial was very amusing.
Yeah.
So
in terms of car commercials for the Super Bowl, it's one of the better ones. But anyway, the Model S, which is sedan they announced 2 years ago, finally coming to production this year.
Come on.
So we know the base price for the is $50,000. That's what they've always targeted.
So this is the iPod Touch version of the Tesla S.
Well, no, this is the white a MacBook, the white MacBook version.
It has a shitty battery and no features, right?
Yeah. So
When you say no features, what do you mean?
let me $50,000. This is after, of course, a $7,500 federal tax credit.
Yeah,
so
that's
really
nice.
You're paying, $57,000 for this. You get a 40 kilowatt hour battery, which has a range of what's the range? 160 miles.
That's
So
not
an
enough.
80-mile round trip, basically, is all you're making.
Yes. 0 to 60 in 6.5, top speed of 110.
Come on, give me the fully loaded. That's what I want.
So-
But hold on, what do you get with that you like? Do you have that giant touchscreen and stuff? Can you browse
you
the
always
web?
get touchscreen. Everyone gets a touchscreen.
Okay.
You don't get the leather seats. You get limited color
gotta
options.
have leather.
Yeah, you don't get the
the giant
all
roof.
glass. You get the black roof, no all glass panoramic
metal roof.
Only 19-inch tires.
Oh,
Come on.
What kind of peasant has he seen? I want to be seen dead in that.
Microfiber instead of leather.
Oh,
I kind of like that. Then if you're not wearing pants, see how comfortable that's going to be.
So
Slidey.
and the worst part is that if you go for the $50,000 version, you don't even get your car till after all the people who bought the nice version.
Oh, they
get
put the
their
people who
cars.
buy the expensive version ahead of you?
Yeah.
as it should be.
If you pay the maxed out $97,900 version.
Okay, so it's $100,000. So it's double
wow.
the price between
Yeah.
the base entry and the top end is double the price of the car.
I'm just
To be
going to go
fair,
buy
there
a
are
new
many
pair of
steps in
sunglasses.
those. So this is the
All right, come on.
17-inch MacBook Pro version.
Yes.
Has the 85 kilowatt hour battery, which
Right.
is 300 miles, double
Now
the mileage.
you're talking.
0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds. max speed of 130 miles per hour, and you get basically all the features included. This is the signature edition.
Right.
You get your 21-inch tires, Napa leather.
Oh. So if I get that, can I get to the front of the queue?
Then you'll get the car this summer.
That's such bullshit.
This summer. Summer 2012.
Could be time for a little
straight from the Numi plant.
Could be time for a 1%
Fremont.
purchase.
Oh no. Yeah, 300 miles. The thing about that car is literally you're going to be the all electric cars. I think it's still not. You can't charge them most places.
But the thing is,
It's like a driving around town car.
Well, no, but on a 300-mile round trip, I mean, I could drive to the wine country.
Can you get to LA and back?
Carbon fiber accents.
I couldn't even get all the way to LA.
Right.
So it wouldn't be for that.
It's like
But
a
that's
Bay
very
Area
rare-
cruiser.
Yeah, basically, it's going to get you almost anywhere in the Bay Area on a day trip, as long as at the end of the day you can return it home to whatever your charge point is.
Yeah. So here's
But you're right. The charge points aren't in any way
tech
reliable.
package comes bundled with the anything but the cheapest version.
What's the tech
Turn-by-turn navigation, high-definition backup camera, automatic keyless entry, so the handles pop out when you get close.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Xenon headlights, LED fog lights, electrochromatic side mirrors.
So maybe
maybe
there's a version for me somewhere in between the base and the crazy end.
It seems like the smart place on this is to get the cheapest one you can with the best battery.
Tesla Quest 2012.
No. If I'm buying anything, I'm buying
the Model
a cheap
S can
car.
charge from almost any outlet anywhere.
I wasn't asking you. I was asking Norm. He's the real 1%.
Well, he is 1%.
Plugs
Norm.
directly into 110
We won't
and
talk about his
240
Lego
watt
budget.
volt outlets.
Come on, Norm. It's time to sell that Lexus.
Oh no.
If Gina's watching,
Oh,
check your
no.
text messages. I had a question. It's relevant.
Can I buy a Tesla?
No, it is not. Can I buy a Tesla? Let's move on to talk about
if it doesn't come
JCPenney.
with Mr. Fusion, I don't want it.
I think you're going to have I think you'll be waiting past 2015 for that.
You don't buy first generation Apple products, but you'll buy the first generation electric car.
This isn't the
not
first
a first
generation.
generation electric car. The Roadster-
the original Tesla was the first
Yeah.
gen. This is second
That's been
gen.
around for
This is the time to
years.
jump in.
Oh God, it's by the second year of this car.
We'll see
Made
how-
in America, Will.
That is true. It is made in America.
Someone's got to start the electric adoption to get this, get the environment fixed.
You're saying you got to kick it loose, man. I've been playing Bombcast this entire time. Apparently, that sucks.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well done.
Apple. Ron Johnson, not the guy from Parks and Rec.
That's Ron Swanson.
Ron Swanson. Oh, my bad.
And not Cave Johnson. That's the
And
guy
not
from
Cave-
Aperture Science.
Okay, so neither of those guys, but Ron Johnson, who
Ron Johnson.
sounds like he should own a surf shop.
It
or
sounds like a
something.
guy that should be played by like Will Ferrell in a movie or something.
Yeah. He was Apple's director of
Retail, right?
And he was brought in by Steve Jobs 10 years ago to start their retail endeavors.
And Apple, by the way, has now just brought in a guy from the UK
Yes,
to
we'll
run
talk
the
about that
retail
too.
side.
So Ron Johnson came from Target beforehand,
Right.
and then basically created Apple's retail business. Left, which is like a very bold thing to
So he's
do.
probably a guy that's pretty smart retail guy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the birthplace of the Apple Store. It's either him or Jobs, right?
Yeah. Because the Apple stores are a big part of the success story.
Yes. 300 Apple stores. That the Apple retail experience is very unique.
So he's gone to work someplace very similar.
Well, he's gone to work at JCPenney. We talked about this in the podcast last week, and he did this great interview with AP about how he wants to change JCPenney, which is a monumental challenge.
Because it's just been a struggling brand for a while.
Yeah, it's like,
If you want your sweet Arizona jeans, you go to JCPenney.
well, the big box department stores have been suffering largely because of the Amazons and the JCPenney.
Big box and department are different.
Well, I guess they're a department store.
Yeah, they're a department store.
JCPenney, and I think there is a new one in like Saramonte, right?
There is one in Saramonte. It's been there for a while.
Yeah, it's like where the old Montgomery Ward used
But
to be.
JCPenney, there's something kind of like naff. Like the brand is just not exciting
It's
to
not hip.
people.
Exactly. Which
Like
is
Sears and JCPenney
Yeah.
are both kind of in that same spot, I think.
The thing. When I think about JCPenney, all I think is, wow, those stores are always really dark. Like
well, not dark. They're also messy.
No, dark. Goodies is messy. Kohl's is messy.
Huh.
Yeah,
JCPenney.
Kmart and Big Lots, those are messy.
Yeah, JCPenney, I always it was always dim. Like you'd go inside and you'd have to kind of you'd go put on clothes and find the mirror with the light in front of it.
Yeah.
Also,
like
my grandmother
Ross,
shopped
places
there.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you could if you want to get a real cool like sweater and polyester pant set for a lady.
Yeah.
Perfect place to put
But like
that up.
Target, for example, has done a great job of making itself like a fairly cool brand. And Walmart is just everywhere.
Well, no,
and
Target-
even they rebranded themselves recently to try and make themselves a bit more hip.
Well, Target's struggling a little bit now too.
Target's brand is classy Walmart.
Right.
It is, and now supermarkets in urban
Yeah.
in urban areas.
Yeah.
So I'm fascinated by how Ron Johnson is going to change JCPenney.
So what's this 3-color pricing
Yeah, I
thing
actually
that
saw
he's
this on
brought
Twitter.
in?
I think it's the first promoted tweet that I actually clicked the
Well,
link on.
there's a TV campaign. I mean, there's a whole push
Yes.
behind this red, white, and blue
It's
thing.
red, white, and blue. Red prices, and I'm amazed. I know this now. Like it's red prices mean everyday low prices.
Yeah.
White means once a month.
Right.
The low prices for the month, and blue means twice a month. They're the rock bottom prices that you got to follow.
I mean, I understand
that
that
the fourth week.
The supposed simplicity of it, but I don't really get it.
Well, you look for the red prices. I mean, I think the color scheme.
Well, no, you would look for the white and the blue
Right, you
prices
look
the
for
most
white
because
and
they're the
blue.
best bargains,
And the
right?
blue ones are the ones you want to go to the store.
And
This assumes you trust
and
them
they've
to correctly label.
redone their whole branding around this red, white, and blue color scheme to make
Yeah.
themselves feel like very patriotic and like the American place to
Yeah.
go shop.
Yeah, they want to be America's favorite store, and I think he wants to completely remodel all the JCPenney's so they become kind of like Apple stores.
I mean, it does
Services
have
and-
the brand awareness in that. It's just one of those places that that's been around forever. It feels like a very quintessentially American thing, JCPenney. It's just not cool.
Well, the mistake they made was going to off-brand stuff, like store brand stuff 15 years ago, because that doesn't hold anymore.
Right.
I don't know. I think that in much the same way that Sears is doomed, I think that the era of that kind of store is waning.
which is why it's
Of
interesting.
a bargain department store. I think the if you look at like Nordstrom's and Neiman Marcus and the super super high end stuff, they can provide a service that people who are in that price range are willing to pay for. But I think at the low end, it's going to be real hard to compete with mail order. It's the same, which is ironic because Sears and JCPenney started as mail order.
When you say mail
catalogs.
order, I mean Amazon.
I'm talking about.
I mean,
internet superstore.
You would think though that this is the time for these places to do well because everyone's looking to save money right now.
Except for their overhead is so much because having 50 million locations is crazy expensive. Hiring 300 people per store is crazy expensive. You know, the number of people serviced per employee is a really, really important number. It's how Netflix destroyed Blockbuster, and it's how Amazon is destroying retail.
They're not trying to compete on price. They're starting with a simplified pricing strategy, but he completely acknowledges they will not have the lowest price. They're not looking to be the store with the lowest price. They're looking to be your favorite store.
Well, if they're trying to, if they want to bring in Nordstrom's type customer service, I don't know if you remember when Nordstrom's was a new thing in the mid '80s, and you'd hear these incredible stories about a dude who worked at Nordstrom's and drove 300 miles to get a pair of shoes for somebody, then brought it to your house.
Yeah,
You know, like that kind of
the
stuff.
myth of customer service.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, it was never true, or true in very limited cases.
But it's
they-
kind of like the first thing you associate with Nordstrom.
Yeah,
whether
like,
it's you actually
still,
experience or not.
20 years later.
Yeah.
The thing is, if JCPenney isn't going to be able to compete with them at that level, then they're fucked. I think that there's no win for JCPenney or Sears or.
But
any of those guys.
the quality of the retail experience, I think, counts. Even though people are ultimately concerned with price, the quality of the experience counts.
If somebody launched a Best Buy competitor where their deal is, hey, we're never going to try to sell an extended warranty to you, I would never go to Best Buy again.
Well, I don't like to go to Best Buy because I very rarely have a good experience there.
Right.
Like the staff feel like they can't really be bothered. They're not that knowledgeable. Like it's just generally kind of grim.
Well, I mean, there are high points and low points, but the low points seem to outweigh the highs.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know if we want to talk about this
So
anymore.
Apple has hired someone new to replace Ron Johnson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it Ron Swanson or Christy Swanson or
Nope.
Ron Burgundy?
Nope.
I'm not
I've
interested
read the
very
guy's
much
name,
then.
but he used to run Dixon's.
Dixon's in the UK, which is a
UK.
big.
What's Dixon's?
It's a chain electronics retailer. It's kind of like
Circuit City?
Circuit City here. Yeah.
Is it dark?
What's surprising is that all the reports say that Dixon's is a terrible shopping experience.
It certainly was when I lived there.
It's
I mean,
one
it's
of
been
the
a long time.
worst rated consumer
Ooh.
shopping experiences in the UK.
That doesn't sound good.
And yet the guy who ran the operation is now going to run Apple's retail system.
Maybe he was incredibly profitable. See, this is the thing we were talking about.
And it's not
before.
like he has to reinvent the wheel or anything. I mean, it's the hard work, I think, of establishing the Apple retail brand has mostly been done.
I disagree. I think we're reaching the point with the Apple stores where when they opened, you walked into those stores and you felt like they were from 5 years in the future, and now they do not feel like they are 5 years in the future anymore.
Really?
Have you been to?
There aren't a lot of other
new
retail
ones?
experiences that are like the Apple stores.
Huh?
Have you been to? I mean,
I have not been to Shanghai. No.
yeah, or the ones in New York. I've never been those, but those still look like.
But
they're from
the
5 years in
furnishings and
future.
stuff are still like the architecture, yes, but the furnishings inside still feels like the same Apple store at Stone Mall.
True, but I don't know any other store that has that.
Well,
The
but
Windows ones, but they just ripped it off.
I guess my point is, you can only, in order to feel like you're from 5 years in the future, you have to keep changing. You can't just keep the same thing, because as soon as Microsoft and whoever else, clothing retailer number 7, does the same thing, you feel old. And frankly, the Apple stores always felt, with the exception of the architecture and the glass, always felt a little bit like Gaps. Like it's the same kind of light wood IKEA tables and
very angular and bright lights,
very bright fluorescent lights and all that. Big pictures, friendly, happy pictures, and
they still tend to stand out in malls though compared to the shops around them.
If you look at like videos of when first Apple stores opened and looking at Apple Store now, I think you'll find there are way more differences.
Agreed. But I mean,
than you think.
At some point there has to be something has to change in the not too distant future.
Well, MacBooks. I mean, aluminum MacBooks are still a thing,
right?
So.
I think that when we see the next body change on the laptops, the stores will change too.
I mean, there's digital signage now. Everything's wrong with iPads. That was the last big change.
iPads don't feel like the future anymore, Norm. I don't want to break this to you.
I mean, all those the high price clothing stores all use iPads too.
Right.
Lockdown iPads.
Right. I go to restaurants that have iPads as menus. Macworld was last week.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to go.
No, you didn't. I said, hey, you should go this afternoon to Macworld. And you're like, no, I got better stuff to do.
I got better stuff to do.
Yeah.
But Macworld, 2009 was, I guess, the last year that Apple had a real presence at Macworld. And now they kind of rebranded it to iWorld. And reading the reports from everyone who went, it definitely felt like it was more iOS convention.
It's a consumer show.
Kinda. The lines were really long, apparently, on the weekend. I mean, there's still a lot of people wanting to go in. There are 250 exhibitors, and I described it based on the photos I saw as like CES North Hall, but transposed to the Moscone West Convention Center. But I think it's still a good place for people who like Apple and who love Apple, which there are way more now. It feels
a lot of
less
people
like
who love Apple,
like an insider club,
and it's less beardy now, I would think.
Yeah, to just meet up and discover apps and look at accessories, and buy cases.
That sounds like, there's a lot of retail presence on the floor, like retail business happening on the floor.
Yeah.
You got to get your $35 worth out of that badge, man.
I had that idea with Jeremy Williams way back when we worked at Future. And this is like maybe 2008, about wanting to start a cafe where people would share apps and get free Wi-Fi and stuff.
The App-Fe.
Regardless what the name was.
Cap-Fe.
And I still think if we had done that back then, it would be packed.
Cappuccino with all APP in there?
It would have made so much money.
How are you going to make money selling apps?
No. You sell coffee and you sell expensive coffee and it's a Starbucks, but it's more tied with the app experience. Because when people first got iPhones, what was the first thing we all did? And when we jailbroke our iPhones,
when we first got iPhones, the first thing we did was jailbroke them and got a bunch of free pirated apps.
And then we talked to each other. Hey, what app did you get today? What app did you get today? That is the iOS culture. That's why we do app of the day.
That's what Twitter's for, and app of the day is for.
Yes.
So you're saying we've gone beyond your idea at this point?
I think if a cafe did that, people would go.
I think the nothing but cereal cafe is the way to go.
No, that's 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Now that's a doomed idea.
Nothing but carbs. Dead product category alert.
So a bunch of camera manufacturers announced new point and shoots.
Canon sacked their CEO this week.
Oh yeah, big losses. But I think Sony and Panasonic both announced new point and shoots. And I took a meeting with Sony earlier in the month about these cameras. And during the presentation, they pointed out that year over year, point and shoots have fallen in sales by 20%, just in America. I don't know why they're still making point and shoots.
We've had this conversation. I don't think any of us know why they make point and shoots still.
Well,
because people want $150 cameras that aren't their phones.
Yeah, and they all sell during the holiday season.
Yeah.
when people are shopping online or at a Best Buy.
It's a gift.
It is.
It doesn't have an annual
Yep.
contract attached to
Yep.
it. Yeah.
And they still, the number one thing they look to is megapixels.
Okay.
And Sony's said that if they took away that megapixel number and just talked about image quality, right, they would just not sell any products.
They would be crippled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, people still look at megapixels. They look at zoom. That's their number two thing.
Numbers.
Yeah. 20x zoom, 12 megapixels, and then the price.
Well, this is a textbook case of the race to the bottom, right? It's the same exact thing that happened with PCs, where we had clock speeds at first, and then AMD had faster performance at lower clocks, so they changed to a performance rating. And then Intel had to change to a performance rating too, and so you end up just having increasingly large numbers that mean less every time they increment. And then they have to start differentiating on price, so the price goes down and down and down and down. And
I
down.
must just
and it's like shoes.
have made faulty assumptions about this market, because we talk all the time about how smartphones are going to be putting point and shoots out of business, because that's the low end where smartphones are most competitive against them.
Yeah.
And yet they keep bringing out these numbers. The reality must be, I guess, that for now at least, there's still money to be made in point.
Well, there's a
shoots.
massive number of people who don't have smartphones with good cameras.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's the thing that I saw this week that said 20% of people who walk into T-Mobile stores have no interest in anything but the free phones.
Right.
So literally, they're going in to buy into a contract that's going to cost them $80 a month for 2 years or maybe 3 years, and all they want to talk about is
But still,
not spending $200.
if you look at the number of Android phones and iPhones that are being sold every year, we know that has got to be making a dent. There's plenty of people like us out there that are like, I don't need to carry a point and shoot because I've got this camera's good enough.
Absolutely.
So it must be eating into it, just not enough that they feel like it's not
20%.
still a market to be served.
20%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that does it for news. Is that everything? Did I miss anything? I think we went down the list relatively effectively. Firefox 10 is out.
We already established that nobody cares.
Yeah, I wanted to get one more hit in. I'm going to play some music, and then let's talk about what we have been testing. Hey, Gary, what have you been testing?
I've been testing a few things. Primarily, I suppose, Norm talked me into getting that camera that he bought recently. And again, actually, just to segue out of the conversation we just had, I was a little concerned about whether or not I really needed a dedicated camera when I'm pretty happy with the one I've got in my phone, and I'm very big on I just want to carry one
Well,
device.
Leah has a SLR too, right? She's like a rebel.
Rarely
or something
uses
like
that, but yeah. And I've also got a little Canon point and shoot, like just things that I've collected over the years. But I rarely use anything other than my phone. But I've been on some trips lately, and I've certainly got things coming up where you want to make sure you get the best photo possible. And so I was thinking maybe a dedicated camera. And Norm's been really talking up this Sony camera that he got recently, and
Not just because I bought it, but because I genuinely believe it is, for that price, a amazing camera.
Yeah, and I'm very pleased that I got it. I took a bunch of pictures with it lately, and it's as good as the iPhone 4S camera is. A dedicated $500 camera with like a real lens and all the high-end dedicated optics and stuff. The pictures are demonstrably better, and I'm glad to have it. And I certainly anytime you're just on that old quote about the best camera is the one you have on you. Yes, that's still true. Most of the time, I'm only going to carry my phone, and a quick snapshot is good enough. But if you're going someplace where I'm going to want to get really good pictures, then this is a good camera to have.
You bought the one with the fixed lens. I walked you through we had a Google Hangout where I walked you through some of the settings. You were primarily using this as just a point and shoot. You're just going to not fiddle with the settings at all. Changing ISO, white balance.
And that's how I've been using it.
And you've been happy with the pictures just pressing the button?
The intelligent auto mode I have found is good enough. I know that you like to tweak a little bit more because you're a little more of a photographer than I am, and that's great. It's very customizable. I love this whole what is it called? Micro 4.3. This whole
Mirrorless.
mirrorless. The mirrorless
Micro Four Thirds is Panasonic and
okay. Well, this mirrorless camera it's great in that it's all the ease of use of a point of shoot basically, but closer to a DSLR level quality of picture. So that's very cool.
And I maintain, I tweeted about this earlier today, I think those camera manufacturers completely underestimated the power of these cameras, and when they launched, they're underpriced. For $500, you're getting more than $500 worth of features if you actually use the camera.
It's one of those magical situations where literally somebody's trying to make a new market, so they're pricing something that's way overvalued at a very competitive price.
Right, because they don't know how people are going to accept it, right? And now, 3 generations in, or, for Panasonic, for Micro Four Thirds, 4 generations in, all the new mirrorless cameras are now being launched at $750, even $1,200, because now there are real DSLR alternatives and they can be priced to match.
Again, if somebody were to come to me and say, I've got like a shitty dumb phone, so the camera in that's no good, I want a camera to carry around. Depending on what they want, I probably still would recommend something like a real point and shoot that you can slip in your pocket, because those things are so compact now. And again, that's what you want. You want something that is convenient enough to carry, that it's always with you. So if that's not your phone, you want a phone that's a camera that's equally as compact. So like when I was walking around Philadelphia, the camera, this mirrorless camera is great, but like it was definitely jammed into my pocket because it's not small.
Yeah.
It's not as big as a DSLR, but nor is it as small as a point and shoot. It's definitely kind of in the middle. You got to have big pockets to carry it around with you. But it's worth it because it does take terrific pictures.
Yeah. What else have you? What have you been into? Norman?
Wait, hold on. I got a couple of other things.
Well, I was going to just go around the table. But I mean, you can keep going.
Finish. Yeah.
What else do I have? Oh, just real quick, really, the other 2 things. One is somebody wrote a Google Chrome extension, which is exactly the thing I've been looking for a long time. I think it's called Nuke.
Is this a 1% problem? Mister, I have 600,000 followers on Google Plus.
Well, yeah, but that's not about one. It's not about 1%.
Well, you are the 1% on Google Plus.
I am in the 1% on Google Plus because I have about 600,000 followers. A lot of people.
Yeah.
And so what happens is I become a target for spam, because if I post something, anyone who posts in that thread is theoretically reaching 600,000 people.
Yeah, it's the Zuckerberg Facebook problem.
So it's free advertising.
Yeah.
And so this happens a lot. And usually, almost every single thread, there'll be someone posting discount cigarettes or free, some web scam. Just bullshit.
Awesome.
Just not like porn, whatever. Just nonsense. You're just shitting up all your
What
threads.
kind of porn? Anything good?
I don't know. I never click on the links. I just go block them. But to block someone and report the spam, report them as a spammer, I have to click on their profile, click block, and then it says, do you want to also report them? Click that, and then go back to the original thread. So which is a hassle when you're dealing. I want to try and fight back against spam as much as I can, but it's a hassle to do this every time, especially when you're looking at a lot of volume. So somebody wrote a Chrome extension, which right there on the main page, where when you can see all the threads together, there's a little button that says Nuke, and you press that one button, and it runs, I guess, a little macro that will block that person and also report the spam without ever taking you out of the page. So I can now go nuke and just move on.
Okay.
And feel like I've done my bit for internet justice.
That's good.
Yeah.
Does it block reports them as spam and blocks? Is there a report spam button on Google Plus?
Yes.
Okay.
And when you block someone, it also asks you if you want to report them.
Oh, nice.
But then it asks you why you want to report them. Hate speech, spam, don't know this person, whatever it is.
Fascist.
Yeah, whatever it may be. But
disagrees with me.
Yes. How dare they? But this one Nuke button, well, again, we'll just do it all in the background. Block, report for spam.
That's cool.
And then you don't exit the page. So I can now just go through my threads, see all the spam, 'cause it's pretty obvious, and go boom, 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 and just delete you immediately.
Very good.
So that's good. And then the other thing that I bought, but I haven't yet tested, when I was in CES, I really had my first experience with this generation of phone of like not being able to make it through the day.
Yeah.
On the battery.
Yeah, the 4S was the big fail out of CES for me.
Because you're running GroupMe, there's all kinds of bing, 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 bing. It's constantly picking up messages. You're using location services all the time. You're constantly checking stuff. Like I wasn't getting through a whole day. And somebody at the end of the day, I was in the bar, and it's a few hours before I was due to kind of get back to my room and charge the phone. My phone was like in the red. I'm like, I'm not going to make it. And someone said, here, try this. And it was like one of these little things I got from Brookstone, like a little battery module that plugs onto the bottom of the phone and recharges it.
Does it look like it holds on there well?
Well, the one that he had was a dock connector that had a short cable and then like a little thing that looked like a stick of gum.
Yeah.
That was the battery pack. But what it does is it doesn't just act as an additional battery, it actually charges the phone.
Yeah.
So you can leave it connected for a couple of hours, unplug it, and then you've got new power.
Yeah.
So I was very impressed by that, and I thought it's a tiny little thing. This is a good thing to have when you travel, so you never have to have the anxiety of your battery running out. So I went to Brookstone, which is kind of a cheesy store.
Kind of not a good place.
But
to go
but Brookstone these days have basically remodeled themselves as just nothing but like iPad and iPhone accessories.
They're 2 steps away from mall kiosks
really,
at this point.
Really. Yep. And I got this little thing, and again, it's like the size of a a stick of gum basically, and there's no cable. It just connects directly. It just sits like a little additional thing at the bottom of the phone here.
My question is, does it have prongs so you can plug that directly into an outlet to charge it?
Yeah, how do you charge it?
It doesn't have prongs, but it has micro USB that connects to
another cable
to a charger.
See, what I want is something that looks like my iPhone power brick, the supercharger brick.
Yeah.
That plugs, instead of having the cable, just plugs directly into my phone.
Right, the prongs just snap
out. The prongs are there, and then you can plug that into the wall.
You don't have that, but it comes with a short cable that you can either plug into your computer to charge it, or into any USB power outlet, or there's also an adapter to plug it into the mains.
So the big problem I have with all of those things is that when I need the charger, it's not like I'm in the car and I have the phone out flat someplace. It's always that the phone's in my pocket, and I need to plug it in while it's in my pocket without adding an unsightly bulge to my pocket. So the Mophie Juice Pack thing is the fix for that. It's basically a case that has a battery in it.
Yeah, they had the cases as well, but then I don't want it to be a thing where my phone is bigger all the time. I just want to have a separate module that is pretty small that I can keep separately and only add it onto the phone in emergencies. But I don't want to be carrying around a big juice case because most of the time I don't need that much battery.
We need cargo pants to come back.
I have cargo pants. Yeah. I don't care if they're back or not.
Right. Okay. It's good. I got rid of all my cargo pants a few years ago because they were real baggy.
They're handy.
Did you cut the pockets out out of spite?
Why would I cut the pockets out?
Before you got rid of them? Like, I hate shoe cargo pants. I cut the pockets.
I like cargo
Those pockets are handy.
Yeah, I still have some cargo shorts. I haven't gotten rid of them.
Oh, man, that's very Kevin Smith of you.
Yeah. Well, I don't wear the bathrobe or whatever over top of it. So, let's see. We've all been using line out dot connector things. We talked about that a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm bummed that the one that you recommend, your recommendations, apparently some people must pay attention because
I carry weight, it seems.
The one that you recommended as the best one is now out of stock on Amazon.
Huh?
You carry weight, not just in your cargo pants.
Go to hell, Norm.
Yeah, you can't get that.
Your cargo pants prejudice is well established. Just because you were. I've seen you wearing some big ass baggy pants before.
Not really my pants.
I'm going to post you that picture on the internet.
Thanks,
so I'm still loving the dot connector that I bought. And again, the magic of it is rather than connecting to the earphone jack, connects to your dot connector.
So it's a line level.
So it's a better quality sound feed, and it also connects both to your headphone input in the car or wherever you're listening. And there's also a USB connector so you can charge it at the same time. So I got that for like $4. I'm very happy with it.
Yeah.
And the one you recommended, which I imagine, presumably if that's the one you recommended after testing a bunch, is even better, was also like $5 on Amazon. I went to buy it. Sorry, this product is out of stock. So I think a bunch of people must have like seen your recommendation and went and got it.
A lot of people asked, like we didn't actually provide the URL for that one because I thought it would be easy to find. There's only one white one on the store, on the Amazon store.
And that's not even there now.
And the reason the white one is good is because it doesn't have the clips on the side. The other ones have the clips on the side, so instead of being a solid piece of plastic that just holds in with the pure dock connector force, you have to do the little pinch thing. And then when you step on the pinchy ones, they break.
I don't like the pinchy.
Yeah, which is what happened to the one that we had in the van.
Yeah.
Much celebrated failure of that particular device. Norm, you've been testing some stuff.
Yeah, so we got the Cosmonaut in.
It's a stylus.
It's a stylus.
It's a fat stylus.
It's like a giant crayon.
I think it's dumb.
I agree that it is dumb if you don't use a stylus for iPad.
I think that using a stylus for iPad is dumb.
Yeah, the iPad was not meant to be used. It was not meant to be used with a stylus.
Yeah. Do you like it?
I think
/N.
Yes, I do like it.
So you're saying that you are dumb?
No, I'm not.
That's what you just said. You said
No.
people who use styluses with iPad are dumb.
I never said that.
And then you
stop
said,
putting words in my mouth.
And then you said I like the stylus.
Nope.
Okay. What? Tell me about the stylus.
It looks like a giant crayon. It's hefty and has a soft tip.
It looks like a first grader pencil.
Yeah. Yeah, which I think is a comfortable grip.
It is a comfortable grip.
It's
a little mushy.
Kind of expensive, $25. I don't think it's worth $25. It's a $10 stylus.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a Kickstarter, though.
Yes.
A lot of people really like it. The reasons I think it are, just to be clear, the reasons I think it's dumb have nothing to do with the product itself, but with the way that software, the compromises you have to make on the tablet in order to use it. So turning off multitasking gestures, the palm recognition stuff is real janky on the iPad because it's not part of the OS. It's not part of any OS APIs. It all has to happen on the app level. So it all works differently.
It could work really well on Windows 8 tablets.
It may be an awesome thing for Windows 8 tablets. Yes. So yeah, that's a thing we tested. I tested another pair of gloves, capacitive touch gloves. Not something we really need here in San Francisco very often. But Isotoner makes a couple of different kinds of capacitive touch gloves. I tested I can't remember which ones they were right now, but basically they have capacitive places on your finger and thumb, your forefinger, your index finger and thumb. And they're not positioned right for using while typing. They're good for like swiping through page turning, stuff like that when you're on, say, a Kindle app or web browser even. But the moment you have to have fine control and have to actually thumb type, it's real bad.
Right.
Not a good product. We also got the Sphero in, the remote control ball.
I think it's really expensive.
We're going to have the exact same conversation.
This is
this
it's all about 1% product.
Yeah, $130 for a ball that you control with your iPhone.
I'm going to bring Chloe in, and we're going to record a video of Chloe playing with
Pets
the ball.
will love it, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is.
At that price, Chloe becomes an accessory for your robot ball toy.
You have no idea how expensive dogs are, dude. Dogs get expensive real fast.
Okay.
The $130, it's $130. But basically, when you put it down on the floor, it lights up. So that's like the dog is interested immediately, like, oh, hey, that if things are happening, it makes a funny noise. That's interesting. And then it moves. And it was literally the same reaction she had to the iPad. It was that she thought that the devil was inside that machine and some sort of evil force was powering it.
Yeah, dogs are basically like people in the Middle Ages, right? They're like, what devilry is this?
Yeah, pretty much.
I want to bite it.
Out, demon!
I can't get it in my mouth.
Yeah. Meme.
Ruff, 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 ruff. Yeah, it was.
See how long that one takes.
Thanks, Gary. I'll open chat now so we can all know. It's interesting watching her. She wants to play with the ball, but she is also moderately afraid of the ball. So,
it's fair enough.
Yeah, there we go. Other stuff I've been testing. We've been doing a lot of Lego. How are you feeling, Norm?
Do you want to talk about your Legos?
Let's save that for fake outtakes.
You think that's fake outtakes?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's save it for fake outtakes.
Okay. Anything else on the stuff we've been testing? That HP laptop. We talked about that some last. Did we talk about it last week, or I think the video went up after last week, and then there's been some controversy.
Yes.
So here is and this is as it applies. So one of the things that we should talk about right here is that the thing that we do at Whiskey that is a little bit different from what everyone else does is that we usually make no attempt to hide personal biases. If you look at
which does not mean we're not objective, just saying we
right.
don't hide our personal biases in how we use things.
Right. And my personal bias is that I fundamentally think that giant desktop replacement laptops are a compromised product category because either you use mobile processors and mobile graphics, which are inherently slower and worse than desktop graphics and desktop CPUs, or on the other side, you use a desktop CPU and desktop graphics, and either way, you're going to have terrible battery life. So at that point, you should really just most people are buying these big giant desktop replacement laptops because it's a big category. It's a popular category. And then they sit with them on the couch plugged in all the time. They're not actually going out in the world and using these because they need more powerful notebooks. They're using them because they want a desktop computer that lives in the living room. And I think that at that point you should make a decision. They're the SUVs of the computer world, right? Because you buy an SUV because you think, oh man, I could really use 4-wheel drive because I might go to Tahoe. Or I could really use a big storage thing because I might haul some mattresses around at some point. They're not a product that most people are going to use in the intended manner. And as a result, you buy something that's really compromised and doesn't do the things you might want to actually do as well as it could. So, for example, you have a MacBook Air that you use on the couch. It's great on the couch because the battery lasts a fairly long time. And when you're browsing the web or spending time on Reddit or something, it's great. I have a desktop computer in my office because when I want to use the desktop computer for video encoding or photo editing or playing games, it's awesome at that. But I don't expect to be able to use that on the couch. And I think that there are exceptions. The deployed serviceman is the exception that everybody always throws out, or the videographer, the photographer who's out in the field. These are all valid uses for this product category. Normal people should not buy 17-inch laptops. That's my stance on the matter.
Unless you're in a very specific situation.
Unless you have a specific use that requires power that you can carry in a bag with you, and you're okay with an hour of battery life, then that is the situation. But for the most part, the way most of these people use desktop replacements, you could take the battery out of it and they would never notice a difference. So it's just extra weight to carry for no reason.
I don't think having a numpad on a laptop that size is a bad idea.
I think that if you need a numpad on your laptop, you can put it on any laptop you want for $30.
Well, no, you're not buying that laptop because it has a numpad, but you're buying that laptop, and by the way, it has a numpad.
That laptop is 3 inches wider than comparable 17-inch notebooks.
Not because of the numpad.
If you look at my keyboard
don't
at
know.
home, I have the extended Apple keyboard because I like the numpad.
Yeah.
But if you look at my keys, you can see that way most of them have gone yellow a bit where
Gross,
from use. You try to keep it clean, but after use, my numpad is pristine. Because who the fuck uses their numpad?
Right.
People who edit video, shortcuts are on the numpad.
Right.
in
People who
Adobe.
edit video, accountants, people who spend a lot of time in spreadsheets.
But for the majority of us, again, I think
Yeah.
the numpad tends to not be. You know, like, do you miss it on there? Of course not.
I don't. No, I don't.
No, and if you do miss it on there, you can buy a Logitech numpad for $30. It's
Right.
Bluetooth.
Right.
So there you go. Anything else you want to talk about on the laptop front? I mean, yeah. We do not hide personal bias when we think that a product category is dumb. That's what we do.
Yeah.
If people don't like that, then we should discuss it in the forums. I guess is the I didn't mean to make a edict.
But it's the
there,
nature
I guess
of
I
people
did.
on forums to think that everyone is biased against them.
Well, in this case, we are. I mean, but there's no hiding it. That's why I don't do those product.
In a way,
reviews.
it's more honest because it's, you know, you can bring whatever professionalism you can muster to be impartial, but you're lying to yourself and other people if you say you don't actually have personal biases and preferences. Of course you do. Everybody does.
Right.
The question is, how do you keep that out of your work?
I felt like this for a long. I mean, this is why I didn't review these laptops at Max PC. Is because I feel like the right answer is never this, except for in a few very, very small number of cases. You know, buy a laptop, buy a small light laptop if you're going to carry it around. Buy a desktop if you need power.
If I was a photographer or someone who shot video on a DSLR and had an SUV or car to drive around to locations and you wanted to process video off compact flash cards, gigabytes of video, I would want this laptop.
But you look at like our photographer at Future who used a 17-inch MacBook for years.
Yeah.
He was in the field 5 days a year, and he suffered with a laptop the other 195 days that he was working because of those 5 days. And when he was in the field, he never had the laptop out. It was purely like,
there's no point having a portable computer if you're not going to utilize the portability of it.
Right. That's my point. I'm sure the chat is exploding now. Let's answer some questions.
Good stuff.
It's a new mix of the transition song. Starts with the chimes, goes into the bumping. If you have a question, the email is podcast@tested.com. Keep it short, under 45 seconds. Minute is okay, but 45 seconds is better. And listen to it first, please, to make sure it sounds like the podcast and not like some dude being dragged underneath a 747 as it takes off. Because we're not going to run that. Here is the first question.
Hi, Will, Norman, Gary. Carl from Christchurch, New Zealand here. My would you rather is, would you sacrifice your own life for the internet, being aware that all current infrastructure in place would still be there? My question is, I recently bought an Amazon Kindle, and after reading the Steve Jobs biography and a book on MTV, I would like a few recommendations for some good books to read, being aware that any genre would be acceptable. Thanks, and always be testing.
Sacrifice a life for what?
Yeah, what for the internet? Like what kind of situation would you be in that you could say, if I do this and it will kill me, but the internet will be saved?
Wait, what?
He's saying, do you want to be the Jesus of the internet?
No.
Would you be okay with that?
No.
So you wouldn't sacrifice your life for Reddit?
No.
What about
Well, you would sacrifice
for information freedom?
I'd sacrifice your life for Reddit.
You would
Thanks.
you would sacrifice your life to like end world hunger, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
why not the internet?
Really?
then? You wouldn't?
I'd have to
If
think
you
about it.
if guarantee world hunger
Yeah.
stops forever for the rest of planet Earth's existence,
Yeah.
and all you have to do is die
Yeah.
at one point in your life, let's just say in the next 10
No,
years.
no. Right now, it's the next 10 years is that's no bet. If you like right now, you're 26 years old. If I kill you,
Thank you.
27 years old. Sorry, late 20s, not mid 20s. If I shoot you in the head right now, hunger is wiped out for infinity.
And the world knew that you're a monster, I'm a hero.
But you do not get recognition for it.
Yeah,
but
you don't
you
get
do-
recognition.
but you do not
There's
get
no
recognition
Norman
because-
Chan Day.
because if you're just doing it because you want statues and shit,
Doesn't
Bill,
count.
then there's nothing great about it. You're doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
No, I'm doing it for people who are hungry.
No, you're doing it because you want
No,
stats.
it's
You want to go
only,
to
no,
not
it's
mutually
only,
exclusive.
it's only truly noble if you don't care about getting credit for it.
And the other thing is,
Okay, then I'm going to rephrase my answer. Yes, dying to end world hunger is noble. Dying to preserve the internet, the existence of internet, is not noble.
so okay.
But you could make the argument.
What's
that
the situation that this
that
happens,
the
though?
internet, in opening up the world of information to people in developing nations and people who would never, and the spread of knowledge throughout the globe, is pretty significant. And
Yeah.
you would take that away
Powerful
from
force
people
for good.
for your own selfish needs.
Because if you're ending world hunger exists right
What
now.
are you doing with your life, really, Chan?
By the way,
World hunger
by
exists
the way,
right now.
also really think about the question: if you don't die,
Yeah.
and you don't save the internet disappears. You're going to wind up
Right,
killing yourself
that's,
anyway.
That's different, right? World hunger. If I don't die, world hunger will still exist. It's dying to effect a change.
How could you live the rest of your life every time you saw like a starving African child, knowing that that's your fault? That you could have died and
Oh, no,
saved all of these people.
I would do it for world hunger.
Okay.
I would do it.
But
for world hunger.
but
I wouldn't do it. To
But
save
think
the
of
internet.
all the horrible times when you get a cat. You're getting ready to have 2 cats move into your apartment. If the internet wasn't there, you wouldn't be able to share the funny pictures that are going to happen in your house because of the addition of
fine.
those 2 cats.
We'll take pictures of them, real pictures,
Film?
real pictures.
Just put them on the wall.
But how's everyone going to
Polaroids,
see them?
and
Yeah,
I'll
nobody's
mail
gonna see that.
Polaroids. Would you like to subscribe to a newsletter?
No,
my funny cat newsletter.
your zine. You're talking about making a zine.
I think it'd be funnier.
Yeah. I feel like my contribution to society is stronger than the impact of removing world hunger or saving the internet.
You can do more good
I think I can do more good
by
alive
sticking
than
around.
dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, we're going to the Lego store on Saturday, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay, excellent.
Well,
there was a real
question.
there was a real question. What books would we recommend?
Yeah.
Oh,
What's the best
okay.
book you read this
Did
year?
he care about genres?
He did not care about genres.
I've read a couple of books that I liked recently, but I'm trying to think of things I can actually recommend. Again, if he's like, he's from New Zealand, so he's probably not that interested in like American culture, because those are the couple of books that I read recently. I don't know. Game of Thrones books are good.
I think there's like a thread on our forums
There is a good book
for book recommendations. Just go to there. Will contributes to that thread.
I do. Things I've read recently are 1Q84, which is Murakami, I think. I've been told I really enjoyed it. I've been told that is not the best thing that he's written.
And also, you know what people don't do enough of? People are always saying, like, what's a good book? Like, the answers are out there. Like, unless you're already super well-read and super literate, read the classics. Read Moby Dick. Read Pride and Prejudice.
Don't
read
ever
Dickens.
encourage anybody to read Moby Dick, dude.
I know, it's not an easy read.
It is not a good. If you are just revisiting reading again, Moby Dick
All right,
is not
okay.
where you should
read
go.
The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn.
That's better, I guess.
Right?
I would say read The Great Gatsby, or read On the Road, or Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas,
Yes,
or
read
20th Century.
Read Hemingway, read
Right.
Austen, read Dickens, read the Giants.
Hemingway, you got to be careful with, because there's some real trudging. But for whom not for whom the sun also rises, and
yeah, The Old Man and the Sea is my personal favorite.
yeah, that's a quick read too.
Just read the great books.
But yeah,
Without an internet.
Do you know what our
Spend time in the library.
Do you know what our fantastic reads? And I enjoyed the first one so much I ended up reading all of them.
Which ones?
Just read the original Sherlock Holmes stories. They're
they're good.
fantastic.
Yeah.
They're great.
Yeah, I like the one about the snake with the string.
Read Tarzan.
I've never read that. Is that good?
Really good. The original Edgar Rice Burroughs,
did
the
you read-
original Tarzan, Lord of the Apes is terrific.
You know what I'm reading right now that I haven't read in probably 15 years is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah,
I
that's
started
good.
those
Good
the other
reading.
day.
I would put that on the list with all these other books that I've talked about.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing because like you read 1980s William Gibson books that don't have cell phones in them and don't have the internet in them, and you like with no Google, like reading about the future of technology without Google makes no sense, right?
The guide itself was an iPad.
Those it's the iPad and Wikipedia,
Yeah.
right?
Right. He saw Wikipedia and the iPad in one thing.
Well, but the question is, did Wikipedia evolve because of Hitchhiker's Guide, or would it have happened independently?
I think Adams is one of those guys who was so prescient that he didn't just predict the future. that he actually helped bring it about because there were there were engineers and thinkers and scientists that read Douglas Adams and like that's a cool idea.
Well, it's like Star Trek in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Nobody took it serious, or people didn't take it as seriously because it's a comedy. But you read those books, and literally, they hold up in a way that most stuff written in the early '80s does not.
Yeah. Also, Douglas Adams. I don't know if you ever read this, but Douglas Adams wrote a fantastic non-fiction book called Last Chance to See.
Yeah,
which is all about going around the world seeking out the world's endangered species.
It was his Kilimanjaro book, basically.
Really, really good, great read.
The other good thing, the other one that's good, if you haven't read it, was Neil Gaiman wrote a biography not biography, but the story of the coming, of how Hitchhiker's Guide came to be.
Oh, okay.
Because it's a really interesting story. Because unlike most everything else, Hitchhiker's Guide was written originally as a BBC radio series, radio play, and they were writing. Literally, he was writing scripts for episodes as the first part of the episodes were being recorded. So it became as a bad procrastinator, Douglas Adams. It's really interesting, and then how that became the books and the audio books and the TV show and all the 15 different versions of Hitchhiker's Guide. It's kind of a whole sort of general mishmash.
And just to stick with Adams, another recommendation which I love is that actually the last thing that was ever published of his is a book called The Salmon of Doubt, which is all his unpublished writings.
It's like essays and stuff, right?
Yeah, it's like, and it's just it's a nice collection of stuff. It's like various travel essays, and he wrote a lot of essays and stuff about his love of computers and working with, because he had
Apple.
He loved Apple and Macs. Writing about there's one in there, I think it's called Riding the Rays, and it's about a trip that he took to Australia because he wanted to swim with the manta rays that they have in the coral reefs around. It's just fantastically well written stuff.
Yeah,
there's a great little essay on how to make a proper cup of tea, just like random shit, just random musings, but all written in that Douglas Adams style.
Actually, everything Douglas Adams wrote was good, I think, except for maybe So Long and Thanks for All the Fish, and even that was okay. The Dirk Gently stuff I really like too.
I love both the Dirk Gently books.
Yeah, I wish there was more of that. I wish he hadn't died in 2000. It's sad.
Talk about a guy taking for his time.
40 years old.
It's not right.
Yeah. So yeah, read Hitchhiker's Guide. That's what I'm going to tell you to do. If you've never read that before, it's magical.
You should read it. Yeah, and you can get all of them, including Young Zaphod Plays It Safe in one.
Oh, the Young Zaphod Plays It Safe is, as the short stories go, is brilliant. That's the one with the lobsters, right?
I don't remember. It's been a long time since I read it.
Or no, I remember what it is. Yeah, it's a good twist. That. So yeah, that's that. I think we actually answered the question, and I feel like we delved into the Would You Rather pretty well there. Want to do one more?
For some reason, it always comes back to my favorite bit from Hitchhikers is that the intergalactic news broadcasting guy who says, like, we're broadcasting to all intelligent life in the universe, and to the rest of you, the secret is to bang the rocks together.
Yeah, exactly. Here we go.
Hey, Tested Crew, this is Paul from North Andover, Massachusetts. A bit of hometown trivia. North Andover is the hometown of Samuel Osgood, the first Postmaster General of the United States. My question, I guess, is for Norm this week. I was just wondering if we could look forward to some testing on things such as back braces, massage chairs, other things like that, because it looks like after a few weeks of Lego building, you're going to be needing some. Thanks, and keep up the great work.
I discovered this as well from my own Lego building, is that when you're hunched over a table building Lego for hours at a time, it's not good for your back. Yeah. You really got to find a comfortable position to build Lego.
The last time I hurt my back so much was when I started using the MacBook Air on the couch and twisting my body. Oh, that ruined my back for a week. Yeah, really sit down when building Lego is the
My back was killing me last week. After I built that space shuttle, I was up all night building it. And like when I tried to stand up, I was like, oh.
Yeah, I don't think those benches on your dining room table are the most ergonomic way to sit.
No, you really, there's better ways to sit.
Yeah.
But that's really the best surface I have for building Lego, so I'm kind of stuck with it.
It's the biggest surface. You should take your desk chair down the stairs and the dining room, move the bench out of the way, and then sit down there.
I should just convert a whole room into a Lego laboratory. That's what it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean,
step into my Lego.
You're going to have to do a nursery at some point too, right?
We're doing it. We're working on it right now.
Oh, wow. Which room is sacrificed for the nursery?
So what used to be, or still at least currently is, the guest room.
Oh, okay.
Is we're going to take the stuff out of that and consolidate it. Leah has a room of her own.
Okay.
Where she can do like her crafts and just hang out and stuff. Yeah, her man cave. That's going to be consolidated into a guest room / man cave, Leah cave.
Okay.
And then what was the guest room is going to become the nursery.
Okay, that sounds good.
Cool. Yeah.
So that'll do it for questions. As always, interesting questions are preferred. Make sure they sound good. We shy away from, hey, what should I buy, this or this, because those are really boring for everybody else. But come up with some crazy.
Yeah, I mean that's the
interesting
kind of
questions.
advice you give out all the time anyway.
Yeah, we did that on Twitter.
Ask on Twitter.
Twitter, forums. Forums
Keep
are the best
watching and
place to do
growing.
that. But yeah, so that'll do it for us this week. Thanks to Gary Whitta and Norm Chan, as always. We'll be back next Thursday with another episode of This Is Only a Test. And today's outro theme comes to us from BuzzClick, who also makes a lot of other things awesome for us. Hi there, I didn't see you.
Lego never gets anything wrong.
They totally screwed this up. They gave me the wrong pieces.
That's a good one.
I'm putting that one in the permanent file.
That's very timely as well.
Yeah.
It's true. Lego.
Can I just say, 100 times out of 100,
Yeah.
the words Lego screwed up, they gave me the wrong pieces, are followed shortly after by, oh, wait, here it is.
Oh, there it is.
Yep.
Yeah. Or, oh, wait, it was upside down.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Oh, wait, I already used that piece 10 layers down.
Yeah.
I used the wrong piece and now I've got
Shit.
to unbuild everything to get the right piece out.
Usually, so I've only done this once so far. I think that, I mean, people will tell me if I'm wrong, I'm sure. But I only remember doing it once where I was like, oh, fuck, I can't find the piece is missing. It must have fallen off or whatever. And then I hear from Norm all the time, though.
No. To be fair, if you read the
Shit.
kit reviews
Yes.
on the Eurobrick forums,
Yes.
and
The people,
Yeah.
100%
So you've been going on the
populated.
forums and the whole. You've really committed to this.
well, I'm committed to the world of Lego, not the looking ahead of my instructions that Will has been doing, and that I think is unfair.
Why can't he look ahead?
Well, you could totally. I'm not going to do that.
Studying the manual ahead of time just seems like a smart thing to do.
Yeah, you'd have to be a nitwit to not do that.
I don't do that. I'm exploring the world of Lego. I'm reveling in the fun of Lego.
Okay.
People
Steeping
do
in
Why have you
culture.
been going on the forums?
Because I want to read reviews of kits I might want to buy.
Okay.
Whether they're kits in production or not. Some of those kits, when people review them, they actually talk about all the leftover pieces, what bonus pieces are, and in some few instances, one or two pieces are missing.
Carpet. It's always the carpet.
I had a couple of people respond to me saying, no, occasionally a piece will be missing. Actually, this week when we go to the Lego store, I've got a little list of pieces because they have the bins of all the different. We actually need to pick up a couple of like random pieces.
It's like just like going to IKEA when you go to the customer service department. I'm missing
I need
this
a
one
peg or
bolt
something,
and then let's go to the back and give you the bolt.
Yeah.
Except you'll pay a quarter for the piece of Lego.
Yeah. So so this your contest is now well underway.
Well,
right?
we're shooting like 1 week ahead, so
Right.
we're midway through the second.
But the
week.
third, in terms of what people are seeing,
Is this still just the first week?
This is still the first
episode?
week.
So you did.
I can't believe it's only the.
You're on your
1 week.
fourth episode today. That's actually being shown.
Yeah.
Well, the first one was sorting, which I don't think counts. But yeah,
I think it counts.
we're
Episode 0, and then 1, 2, and 3 is the newest one up to
I
date.
think we learned a lot from the first week of shooting, and so the coming weeks will be even better.
What have
Yeah.
you learned?
one is that Norm can't just run an internal monologue the entire time and leave me to ramble.
We need
Yeah, you've
conversation.
got to be talking during
Yeah.
the building.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when we shoot 2 episodes at once or 3 episodes at once, the first episode usually goes by really fast.
Yeah.
And then the second episode, third episode, we run out of things to talk about.
I think you also kind of need an Alton Brown type character in there, like
Wow.
calling
Well, you're
the
welcome
plays.
to come by anytime.
always welcome to provide some commentary.
Somebody needs to be doing it, I think.
Um,
But it is. I'm amazed because as much as I was excited to see it personally,
yeah.
at the back of my mind, I was a little bit nervous about you guys are committing to a lot of content, which is basically just asking people to watch you build Lego. And I don't know how interesting that's going to be for like a general audience, but people seem to really
So far,
be enjoying it.
so far, so
And I got to
good.
say, I found it more interesting. Like you guys debated on whether or not you wanted to do an episode just showing the sorting, because this is something I actually didn't know, but which you discover very quickly is if you're going to build a big piece,
1,000-piece set.
you have to sort the
Yeah.
pieces first, otherwise it will take you 3 times as long.
Yeah.
And so you debated whether or not you want to do an episode that was just dedicated to the sorting. It's like the prep you do before you start
said
cooking
yes.
a meal.
Norm was looking for more content.
I had full confidence in this entire series from
Yeah.
conception to execution.
No. What you wanted to do, I know exactly what your thought process was. Your thought process was, I need an excuse to buy a $400 Lego kit. And
I was
would
going to get it anyway. I didn't have the excuse.
And-
First of all, I already bought it before coming up with this idea.
I would like to deduct that $400 from my taxes. And I would like to do the assembly at work on the clock. This is the process. Mission accomplished, Jen.
I would have done it.
We're in.
I would have had a party to do it.
Okay.
It's really it's
Well,
fun
what
for
happened
everyone
was
involved.
Norm got the Lego bug recently when he built that TIE fighter.
Yeah.
At our recent
The TIE
Lego
Advanced.
party.
When you
And
say
then-
recent, you mean like in December last year?
Yeah, so, and it really is a gateway drug.
It was the 29th.
I mean, for me, it was that Lego White House that I built.
Yeah.
Leah really is the Lego fan. She's the one that would drag me to the Lego store. And on a recent trip, I got the Lego White House because I love that architecture range they have now. It's very cool. Famous buildings of the world.
I like that, but I wish some of those were more complex. Like, I like the one
Roby
that
House,
takes
dude.
6 hours to complete.
Well, the Roby House is 2,500 pieces.
But
and
it's like $300.
And Tower Bridge, which is not technically part of architecture, but is a similar thing.
Yeah.
Is even bigger than your Death Star in terms of pieces.
Yeah, so for me the balance is because I don't want to display this stuff in my house because A, I have a small house, and B, it doesn't go with my general scheme. I don't have a good place for it. I don't like the thing that seems like it would be horrible would be spending 2 days or 3 days assembling something and then taking it all apart and putting it back in the box.
People do it all the time.
People do that because they resell the kits.
No, not only that, but they like the building part so
Yeah.
much that they get the sense of accomplishment when they finish building, take the photos, take it apart, and then 1 year later revisit it and maybe build it with a friend.
Yeah.
I think that's terrific. That's not for me though. Once I've built it, I like to keep it and put it on display. And for we don't have actually. We'll have even less room soon, but we're finding room to put these things out and keep them on display.
Right.
Like your Star Destroyer is obviously that is going to have to get.
Are you gonna get a case made for that?
No way. No case made. It'll be out on a table somewhere.
But it's well suited for like the top of a bookcase or something.
Exactly.
You just need a long space for
Oh
it.
boy, when the earthquake comes and that falls off.
Well, I worry about like when you move house, how the fuck are you supposed to transport this stuff? It's so fragile.
Then you got a lot of peanuts, packing peanuts.
Yeah.
Or you just disassemble it and then you put it back together.
Yeah, exactly.
So you guys are, I mean, I don't want to jump ahead, but from this last episode, you are still kind of fairly
neck and neck.
even.
Yes.
It's hard to tell from looking at the kits because you can actually see your kit really kind of rising up because you're building kind of vertically.
Well, we're measuring percentage by mass, which I think is probably what's going to happen is Norm's going to get into detail work at some point about 2/3 of the way through his build, and I think I'm going to pull massively ahead at that point. That's my feeling.
Okay.
It's interesting because they are very different kinds of build.
Yeah, I mean,
like Norm's is really like a very accurate model.
Yeah.
And yours is again more of a play
it's a play set. It's for kids.
And what people don't appreciate, people are going, "Oh, that still looks dumb." They don't appreciate all the stuff that is actually playable, like the trash compactor doors open and close, and
we'll show that as we get there.
That's pretty cool.
I realized the other day that there's a working elevator in the Death Star.
It's amazing.
Yeah, like I can lift things from one level to the next.
And the other reason why I think it's popular is for the same reason that things like lists, people like to chime in and say, "Oh, that's wrong" or whatever. Is there's a lot of backseat drivers and armchair quarterbacks in the world of Lego in your forums going, "Oh, he's doing. Oh, look at the way he's building it. That's all totally wrong."
Even down to the point of, "Oh my God, why do you not weigh the minifigs once and then add that amount to the total rather than blah blah blah?" The reason we don't weigh the minifigs once and add them to the total is at some point I'm gonna have to place the minifigs on the model.
Right.
So then
will
I'd
lock
have to
in
keep
and be-
subtracting.
right.
It's gonna.
Right.
There's potential for fuck ups. So we're just doing it straight. We're weighing every day, the whole thing. Plus, I think it's pretty likely that at some point Norm's going to pick his up and it's just going to split in half as he's trying to weigh it.
I've been lifting mine up and checking all the connections at the end of the episodes to make sure the pieces are pressed tightly together. I think we are on the zeitgeist, ahead of the zeitgeist.
Oh no,
for Lego. Thought leaders.
We've been thought leaders in Lego. I've received a lot of messages, and I've certainly seen a lot on the forums as well. People seeing things that you guys are building or things that we've built and going, "Oh, I gotta go buy some Lego." We sold like that space shuttle that I built. A lot of people went out and bought that.
Yep.
That camper van, the VW camper, which is great.
It was fun.
People were very inspired by that. The architecture things are great, and obviously this big Star Wars contest. A lot of people are, and again, I can't recommend it enough. I strongly believe that there is no age limit for Lego. That once you forget this, especially if you haven't built Lego as a kid, I highly go out and buy like the White House or the X-Wing, something you can buy for like $50, not super expensive. Build it, and there's something about just the satisfaction of feeling those blocks snap together and pressing them together and seeing you go, oh, there's that little first eureka moment where you go, oh, it's starting to look like something.
Yeah,
this actually looks like a thing now, and it's immensely satisfying on a very deep level, I think.
Exactly.
Because you've said right that the hardest part about this is that when the day's filming is done,
it's awful
to have to leave it and step away when you really just want to keep going.
Yesterday we did the third episode because we were having fun.
Can you feel it like
Yeah,
calling
I know it's
you
in the other
from
room,
the other
and then I
going,
could
come and build me.
Literally, it could be done by this time tomorrow morning if I just buckled down.
Yeah. I'm terrified of that tower bridge that I bought. It's 4,000 pieces. It's even bigger than the Death Star.
You'd better nail sorting, man. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, but again, that now is going to be part of the fun. There's going to be a whole day where I just sort the pieces.
Yeah.
Because it's all part of the preparation.
And you can't go to bed at night. You're just thinking about the pieces.
This is the kind of
They
thing.
have, like, when you close your eyes and you see, like, Tetris shapes. Now
Yeah.
you see Lego bricks
I have
fixing together.
That happened to me on Friday after we did the last episodes for last week.
So we're going to get together this weekend and do some side projects, right? Just
Yeah,
to kind of,
that's the plan.
To feed
Super Bowl.
the
Side
monkey.
projects.
You got to
Yeah.
I
feed the
think
monkey.
Gina's out on Lego on Sunday, but
Okay.
she'll watch the ball game and let us know when ads are on, so when we should pay attention.
Oh, but she's going to come over.
She's going to come
She's
over.
not going to
Yeah,
bill.
yeah.
Okay.
No. She
But we'll
might-
go to the Lego store
might-
at some point on Saturday, and we're going to pick up. I've got a couple of little 500-piece type things, like the X-wing,
Yeah.
the Farnsworth house. Falling Water is what I really want to build, the 800-piece. If you really want to get into the architecture but build something big, then get the Roby house. It's the biggest.
Well, I'm
piece.
worried about building part at your house and then having to transport it home.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying just in general, but like if you're something for the weekend,
Yeah.
If you just want to build, because last time we built very elaborate things, you guys barely finished the VW working
Yeah.
together
for 6 hours.
I did not finish the shuttle. The fire station didn't get finished because that's a huge build.
Yeah.
Find something that's under 1,000 pieces that you can.
Yeah, I think the X-wing and the TIE Fighter might
finish.
Yeah, Norm made a ill-advised purchase.
Yeah, but are you going to try and build the Imperial shuttle?
I'll have assistance.
The thing is, this stuff. I'll help.
It'll be like
with that if you
Michelangelo,
want.
you know.
Yeah.
Michelangelo,
Wait, how
when he
many
built
pieces is the shuttle compared
2,500
compared to the VW van?
Twice as
as
much.
many.
Right, and it took two of you all night to
I'll have
finish that
two
thing.
assistants. I hope will be better than Will.
Fuck off.
Oh, I hope.
I'm gonna
They would
make
be
a
really
bet.
good assistants.
Unless,
You know,
unless
you were a
unless
fine
you
assistant.
unless you
Our
come
progress
over,
so far leads me to believe that I am pretty much exactly as good as you.
unless you come over on Sunday real early and devote the whole day, I don't think you're going to get that shuttle finished in a day.
Fucking finish.
Well, the
that.
nice thing about that Star Wars stuff, especially, is it seems to hold value really well. So if you want to build it and then put it on eBay,
Right,
or put it in
disassemble
the
it
garage
all,
for 6
sort it
months and then
all,
put it on
yeah.
eBay,
I couldn't do that. They become like trophies. These are the things that I've conquered and built.
Yeah,
Like
see,
Alexander the Great surveying his empire.
Right, it's not like I'm going to go buy crack with the money I'm building Lego. Lego is
oh
my
man,
crack.
I wish I had crack. That would make. Wait, no, that's not right. The thing for me is I wanted to. I'm in a cruft removal phase this
What is
year.
cruft?
You know, the detritus of life. The things you accumulate that you think, oh, this has meaning to me, and then you really look at it 3 years later, and you're like,
So
oh,
you say you're not be a hoarder.
I'm getting rid of all the shit. I'm cleaning out the garage, and then I'm moving the shit that's in the house to the garage, and then I'm cleaning out the garage again. At some point this year, I'm going to have the greatest
Does
yard
this
sale
include
you've ever
people?
seen. Well, yeah, it's good. Good.
Yeah.
I've never.
I've already done that.
I've
I'm
never
at a
been
point
one
in
of
my
those
life.
people to like collect like action figures and models and
No,
stuff
I'm
like
not
that.
talking about
but-
that. I'm talking about books and like just going through the kitchen last weekend. Gina realized we had 4 vegetable peelers because
Why?
because like you get some in your stockings or you see one and you're like, oh, maybe this Xylus one is better than the one you had before, and you never get rid of the old ones just because they're in the back of the drawer.
I'm totally with you on this whole mission. And yeah, we've got too much.
Yeah,
Like you said, just mess.
like at some
craft, whatever you want to call it, the stuff that you don't need.
when I moved to California in 2000, we fit all of our worldly possessions into like a 16-foot U-Haul, right?
Right.
I want to be back in that position.
When I moved house last time, we had one of those vans. You know, they come in and like
Yeah,
clear all your
the
shit.
24-footer.
Yeah, and they said how big a van? I said, oh, I don't think I've got that much stuff. By the time
Yeah,
they had to come back again the next day because I didn't realize how much shit
I
I
said
had.
we had an
Yeah.
18-wheeler.
Hey,
Yeah.
the three of us should have a combined yard sale / tested.com meetup where people around the Bay Area can come and
I don't
meet
wanna
us
do it at
and
my
buy our
house.
stuff. I'll do it in my garage.
You'll do it at your house?
Buy
I don't
our
think I
stu-
could.
buy our stuff.
It
We'll
would
get
cost-
rid of our craft
I could do
and
that.
do a meetup.
I could see that.
I could do that.
It'll be a barbecue.
I'd have to
/
haul.
yard
I'd have to
sale.
hire an 18-wheeler to haul it to Norm's house.
I could probably get a bunch of stuff over in my car.
Let's do it in
Barbecue.
summertime.
Barbecue / meetup
Summertime.
/ yard sale.
Yeah, buy our shit.
All right, let's do that. That
That's
sounds
a
good.
terrible idea.
But what you're saying is that you can't really be accumulating this Lego
like
stuff.
going out and buying a bunch of Lego shit is in direct contravention of the anti-cruft
Yeah,
initiative.
but you don't have to go crazy like Norm. Just get yourself. I mean, you haven't bought.
I have yet to buy
piece yet.
anything.
Right, so
Yeah.
you can afford one piece.
Yeah, but if I buy one, then if Gina buys one too, because we want to have some things that we can do together, and
Yeah.
and then next thing you know, I'm
Well,
on
you know,
hoarding.
go to the store on Saturday and see what takes your fancy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to buy like 3 yellow bricks. That's my plan.
I bought, and the other way to go is because I just bought this for Leah because we're going to start a collection. Is you can buy just like buckets of bricks, just generic bricks, if you want to create your own things.
Well, that's the next phase for me. If I go deep in this, it's going to be downloading the CAD software, which you can get is available for free,
right?
And building stuff.
It's amazing
with CAD.
what some people build. You saw those Victorian houses;
Yeah,
those are incredible.
Yeah, I like the Ghostbusters.
The trap, yeah.
I just got a text from Gina. What she says is a massive garage sale at Norm's house is a fantastic idea.
So she
Make it
harshly
happen.
She's in.
supports
A
that.
meetup slash.
I don't know what I would
garage
get.
sale.
You know what? I bet you I could get rid of a lot of books.
Yeah.
Because I've got a lot of books I don't
Everything
need.
will have a story too, and we can tell the story from what you're selling. You can be that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could have the
And
best
we can charge over the odds because if we're selling to tested fans,
No.
we
no
can inflate
gouging.
the prices.
No gouging. $30 a signature though.
Yeah.
Look at all the
we
signatures
can
we
sit
gave
there
away
like
free.
the original Boomer from Battlestar Galactica or something at the back.
Right.
Just
Leah and Gina working
sitting
the
alone
front
at
and
the
we're in the
table.
back with the line. That's
Yeah.
a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Terrible idea.
Show your ID before Gary will sign it.
I would like to talk about. I was watching Curb the other night,
Ah, good choice.
and we finally at the end of the first season because we took a little bit of a break because there was some concern that possibly watching Larry David be TV Larry David was going to have negative connotations toward my behavior. So
You do pick
problem.
up things.
Yeah. You start to think, oh, well, that's okay. So we're watching the season 1 finale, where he's laying in bed and they're having a conversation. Do you remember the conversation I'm talking about?
I'm trying to remember the episode.
It's the sex availability conversation. Where she says, "Why do I always have to initiate sex?"
Right.
This was very funny because we had this conversation.
Yeah, because he says like you can just always assume that
just,
I'm up for
I'm
it.
on.
Yeah.
Literally the exact conversation, probably 10 years. Like, you've been in a relationship a long time. You know how this goes. At some point, you get tired of rejection, and you're just like, okay, it's on you. This is your problem now. When you're ready, let me know. And just assume that I'm ready at any time for sex.
That's the Larry David position.
This was the Larry David position. We had this conversation in 2002.
Uh-huh. So this felt...
About when this aired.
This felt special for you?
No, it was before. Well, okay, so it was when we were living in the first apartment in San Francisco.
No,
So
but when
2001.
the show aired.
The show was probably on. I had never heard of the show at this point. I wasn't cool enough to know about that. So we're sitting there and having the conversation, and Gina's laughing, and I'm laughing. I look over and she's like, "We had this conversation, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, we had this conversation a decade ago." So that was
It's
awkward.
a very, very, very well observed show.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if that was well observed because we're neurotic in the right way, or if everyone has that conversation, no one ever talks about it.
And the good thing is the show only gets better now as you go on, as you work through the rest
I'm
of the
excited.
subsequent
I'm
seasons.
looking forward to it.
But it is entirely possible to start picking up Larryisms and things that... Because you start going, yeah, he's totally right. Why don't people think more like that? But then you start adopting, you realize
I'll
that...
say it too.
Yeah, but there's a reason why they call it fuck you money.
Yeah.
He has it.
Yeah. Even then.
Yeah.
So yeah, my question to the audience is this a conversation everyone has, or is this a conversation?
I'm not sure you're asking the right audience.
Probably not.
Wow.
Maybe
Norm
not.
dissing the tested audience.
Wow. I'm saying younger crowd.
I came down hard on Bragger for testing for dissing the tested audience
not
at CES. Yeah. I should come down hard on you for that.
What are you talking about?
I
I had the good burn at CES about the joysticks and the gamepad dudes.
don't remember that.
No, never mind.
Yeah. Bah. Philadelphia. Anything you want to talk about from Philadelphia, Gary? We talked a lot about this on the poster signing on Monday. But
I had a
that's not
terrific
archived.
vacation there, steeped in history.
You've had 2 vacations in January. You're rolling from one vacation
and
to the next.
I rarely go on vacation, so I was glad, had a good opportunity to. And with the baby coming and all that, we're probably not going to be taking too many trips the rest of the year. So it was nice for Leah and I to get away. And we went to Philadelphia, and I love history, and I think American history is fascinating, and so it was very interesting to go to Philadelphia, where America was born, and see, stand in the room where the Declaration of Independence was signed, and visit the house where it was written.
Yeah,
and see the Liberty Bell up close, and
it's like Jean-Luc Picard putting his hand on the Phoenix.
Yeah, very much like that.
Han.
First contact.
Except if you try to put your hand on the Liberty Bell, park rangers will come and get you.
Don't cross the line.
Yeah, you can't even. Yeah, you can't. You can actually get very close to it, but there's a rope around it which you're not allowed to break the plane of. Like if you try to reach over with your camera to get like a closer view, somebody will tell you not to do that. But it was fascinating. Went to the National Constitution Center, which is an amazing museum that's basically all devoted to the history of the Constitution and America, basically. Really interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah. I learned a lot of stuff that I didn't know.
For example?
Oh, geez.
It's really stuck with you. When did you get back? Sunday?
Yeah. And I actually bought copies, really nice little hardbound editions of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights.
How many
that's
pages
cool.
is that?
Not very. I mean, they're tiny.
Okay.
It's not a lot of text. But they also come annotated with, history of the
And
signers
sometimes
and
it's
stuff
like
like
a
that.
binder with a reproduction of the original parchment.
You
or
can get
whatever.
all kind. Yeah, and I actually bought one of those as well. To we're going to frame those and put them on the wall because I think those documents are amazing.
I always like to keep one of those folded up in my wallet in case I get, I can hide behind the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
So it was
And then
very.
shoot someone through it.
No, they shoot you.
I'd
through it.
actually never sat down and read the entire U.S. Constitution like in one sitting, and I did it on the flight back because
We the people?
They give you a free copy of it when you go to the museum.
That's nice.
And I sat down and read the whole thing, and it was fascinating.
Yeah. Well, the issues are like the thing that's interesting about all that stuff to me is that they were vague in exactly the right places to leave it open, leave the stuff that would change open for interpretation.
Right.
Which is, did they talk about the Articles of Confederation there as well?
Well, so I didn't. So I'm talking about things that I didn't know. Like
Yeah.
I pride myself on the fact that I'm pretty good on history, but I'm actually pretty ignorant in I got a lot of blind spots I didn't realize that I had until I went here.
Everybody. I mean, but this is the thing. Everybody has a lot of blind spots about history.
So-
except even historians. Like if you're outside of the area you study, who the fuck knows what's going on? It's a lot of history.
Most Americans, I imagine, already know this, but it's an easy thing to not know that the Declaration of Independence, in which America was basically created,
Yeah.
and the Constitution of the United States were written 11 years apart.
Yes.
And so the Declaration of Independence was great, right? And you saw off the British. Well done. And
Fuck those guys.
But then what happened? You hadn't really created a nation at that point. You really had just created 13 independent nations.
Right.
All of which didn't really get on. And for a decade after the Declaration of Independence and the removal of British rule, there were border wars between those 13 colonies.
Different currencies?
And each state minted and created their own currency, and they all had their own laws, much like states still have today.
Right.
But it was very fragile. It was basically all falling apart.
Well,
And the Constitution was created as a way to unite those states.
the Articles of Confederation were 1778 or something.
Well,
right?
the Articles of Confederation came after, but they were they weren't really legally binding, and they didn't really create a nation.
Right.
They didn't really create a federal government. And of course, so then you had the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists who didn't agree in the Constitution. Like, well, the Constitution creates this federal entity which is more powerful than the states, and we don't like that. And of course, we still see this argument today.
Yeah.
But the Constitution was really the document that solidified
Well, it was
the
a version.
America that was created 11 years previous.
The point is, it was the version 2.0 because we learned the Articles of Confederation were a failed attempt to do the same thing the Constitution eventually ended up doing.
Right.
And so things like the Bill of Rights' existence and the ability to amend the Constitution were a direct response to
the Bill of Rights.
Confederation.
And the Bill of Rights, in fact, came even later because the Constitution is great in the sense that it defines the kind of the legal framework of how the country will be run, but it doesn't actually define individuals' rights or anything like that. That came later with the amendments.
Yep.
Right. It's an interesting place. It's weird. It's funny because that's old history. Like that's Philadelphia is pretty much as old as you get without going to Jamestown or Plymouth Rock or places like that.
Yeah, pretty much. And so standing in Independence Hall, I mean, knowing that you're standing in the room where that document was signed is pretty amazing.
Yeah, but there are working schools in London that are older than
of course, and
hundreds of years older.
Yes,
in some
America's a
cases.
very, very young country in that sense. It was kind of weird to go to Graff House, which is the room where Thomas Jefferson rented a room and wrote the Declaration of Independence. It's still there.
Yep.
But the rest of the area around it is completely 21st century now. So it's like this old 18th century house. It looks like the TARDIS or something, just standing there completely out of place. And there's a Dunkin' Donuts across the street.
Oh, that's convenient.
And a big, concrete parking garage, and it kind of looks like this completely anachronistic building. But they've preserved it because it's of historical interest.
Did you have any of those South Park situations where there were people like reenactors walking around in period
No,
costume?
fortunately, there isn't
break?
anything like that. When you go to the National Constitution Center, there is a very cool interactive presentation. A guy comes out and does a whole thing and tells you about the Constitution while there's like musket fire and stuff in the background, and that immersive thing happens. But then you go through what is a traditional kind of museum exhibit, and they have a really interesting section on the Supreme Court and how the Supreme Court works, and you can watch interactive presentations of famous Supreme Court decisions, like flag burning and stuff like that.
Okay.
And you can stand behind a presidential podium and be sworn in as president by the Chief Justice. I took the oath of office.
But you looked like a dystopian president. You were dressed in just the right casual way with a futury looking jacket.
It looked very Orwellian.
Yeah, like oh look, I'm very specifically casual.
Yeah,
but also
like
I will have you all killed.
I'm like the guy that you've sworn in and granted emergency powers to because you desperately need something.
John Hurt
done.
from V for Vendetta.
But then the next morning you wake up and you're like, oh my god, what have we done?
Right. I'm afraid of a nebulous external threat, so I'm going to give Gary emergency powers.
Give
and
me
then
all your powers,
Darth Gary.
It kind of bums me out that I could never be president.
Well, you should have been born here.
And I actually think that is an amendment that they should add.
You got to watch out for the what is it? The sleeper cell? No, what was the famous movie? Manchurian Candidate.
They could just as easily have been born in America.
I suppose. This brings up another thing that actually I'm not going to talk about that because that has been covered elsewhere. I guess that's it. Did anybody else have anything?
We'll talk about the social selective.
Right. You had such a good segue, and then we didn't talk about it.
Fuck you. Social selective,
emotional
selectivity theory.
Yeah,
it's the New York Times article about how you defriend people in real life. It's not me, it's you.
Wow.
As people get
older,
older,
comes back around to Larry David, doesn't it?
As people get older, their time is more valuable to them.
Well,
and who they keep close to.
Hold on, it's not that.
Also, when they were younger, everyone wants to accumulate friends because you don't know who you are, and when you're older, you do know who you are.
Right.
And so the people you keep around you are the people that are more in line of your life.
This is very much in line with my own experience recently, where I've talked about this before, where I'm moving from volume. I'm not dealing with volume anymore in social networks. I'm moving from quantity to quality.
Right.
You want to have a small group of people that you care about.
Yes.
But there's always still the drama. I still get messages occasionally from people going, "Oh, why'd you defriend me?"
Which is exactly the point of the story.
Yeah.
How do you defriend someone in real life?
Well, you block them.
They profiled a bunch of people, and most people, it turns out, are just very passive about it. They stop talking to people, or when they engage in conversation, even their friend, the quote-unquote friend, is very active in engaging you in conversation. You just don't propose, getting together, hanging out. But what the story proposes, actually, and what relationship experts have recommended, is that you actually sit the person down and tell them you are no longer fit to be in my life. You have to dump them as a friend.
Wow.
And that gives you...
I've seen that done like on a mass level where someone's made a post saying it's time for me to kind of weed back my friends list. So apologies to anyone who may get defriended, but it's done kind of like on a macro level, not
a one-to-one.
Yeah.
Well, but this is
you're out.
This New York Times thing was specifically...
Aren't you then like George Clooney, like going around like firing people? Like who wants to do that?
Yeah.
Everyone who's ever changed the world has been in the position you're in right now.
The people they profiled were like many of them were suffered emotional trauma because of guilt, because they defriended friends who had been very close friends when they were younger, but now were just not right for them.
See, this whole story though gave me this whole story was written as hey, it's okay to dump friends that you've had for a long time because you've changed. Your focus has changed. Either they've had kids you haven't, or they still are heavy drinkers and going out all the time, and you don't do that anymore. Like the thing is, as you grow and decide what kind of person you want to be, the people you're going to surround yourself are going to change, and some people aren't going to make the cut, and that's just the way it is.
Some people there's no way for them to not take it as a slight. Yeah. I had this conversation with someone recently. I got a message from someone saying, "Why did you take me off your friends list?" I'm like, you know what? As I got older, I recently decided I wanted to change the way I use Facebook. I'm using it for different things now, and so I've reorganized that part of my life. And sorry, but that's my prerogative.
If you'd like to follow me, you're welcome to. I'm on Twitter and Google
Plus. Subscribe to my updates. But it is very dramatic, and it makes me think more carefully about who I add now. Because once you add someone, that then becomes something you have to you might want to have to undo later, and there's no easy way to do it.
But
apparently,
if you make your Facebook profile public, then you can change, because the thing about Facebook that used to be is it was a one-to-one relationship. I had to say I was friends with you, and you had to say you were friends with me in order for us
Right.
to see each other's stuff.
Right.
Now you can have a more Twitter-like one-to-many relationship, so you can friend them and then immediately unfriend them, and they may never know.
Yeah, and
unless
I
they
don't
go
even
block.
I don't even really I might unsubscribe from their updates so that I'm not seeing their stuff in my feed, but they're not technically unfriended.
Well, that's a good option.
Yeah.
This was more about real life stuff, though. I thought it was really interesting, and part of the story that was good was the gaining friends in the 20s, shedding a lot of them in the 30s when you're focused on raising kids, typically, and 40s, and then gaining friends again in the 50s when you're looking for things to do after the kids have left.
It just happens naturally, doesn't it? Like people, you just wake up one day and you realize you haven't spoken to that person in 10 years because you got nothing to talk about.
Well, it's
anymore.
10 years ago, 20 years ago, it was much easier to do that because you were less connected in real life overall to people. Now, they can always check your Twitter.
Yeah.
Oh man, you went to that event and you didn't call me.
That's
why not?
the problem. Is that when you are that connected,
When
it
some-
doesn't atrophy in the same way because
No.
it's so easy to stay connected. People just keep poking you or whatever. It's like they won't go away.
Well, when
Stop poking me on Facebook.
Yeah, when somebody you went to high school with is coming to San Francisco, they go to Facebook and say, "Oh, who lives in San Francisco? Oh, Gary lives in San Francisco," and it may be somebody that you're perfectly fine seeing at a high school reunion 20 years from now, but don't want staying in your guest room.
That's the thing. I
when-
think that your real life friends list tends to kind of naturally curate itself. Like the people that you see every day that are in your life every day, you just naturally see them, and then the people that may not be in your life every day, the ones that you care about, you will make the effort to stay in touch with, and the ones that you don't, they're not worth that effort. That's fair, and that's fair enough. And so you manage it naturally. But when somebody like Facebook and the internet comes along, it basically makes all people, no matter where they are, equally accessible. Then you have to make the decision.
But there's the other side of this is that there are friends that I don't see in person very often, but whenever I get an instant message from, it's always a nice moment. Like it's always happy.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's a weird. There's a lot of potential for awkwardness with all the super connectedness we have today.
That's why you should be antisocial.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, part of the thing is part of the shedding of friends happens just because I don't like leaving the house. I mean, let's be honest.
I mean, look, we've seen people get murdered over relationship status and nonsense like this sort of thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the big time drama.
yeah. Thanks, Reddit. Okay, that'll do it for us this week. We'll see you next Thursday. Keep watching the amazing test. We'll be making more Lego every
give
single
us
day.
more feedback because we
You
are
saw some
not near
subscriptions
done.
off of that as well. People actually signed up just to
It's
watch.
unclear,
your
but it
stupid
seems like
shit.
people are signing up.
I saw
for
a
it, yeah.
few people sign up.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. We gotta keep the lights on. See you guys next week. Bye. And we're still live on the stream. Bye, internet viewers.